Well, there goes the neighborhood. Good morning, everybody, and welcome on this Saturday, this isolationist Saturday, March 28th, 2020, for the 739th episode of the Dave's Gone By Facebookio, Podcastio, Programmio of the Stream, with me, Dave Lefkowitz. I look sick on this. It's the lighting. I'm trying to get the lighting right. We have all sorts of cool lighting implements here, and also against white on stark white. It's kind of like I'm trying to figure out how to.
I'll help. I'll help.
My wife Joyce is trying to help,
Hold on.
so that I don't look so pale and washed out, because that's what everybody is worried about. That's what everybody's thinking. It's like, oh my God, how do I look? How do I feel this morning? Do I have it? It's probably the same exact way people were feeling in like the 1300s when buboes were going around, and we do love our buboes. And you just kind of woke up in the morning and thought, okay, nothing on my skin, nothing, I'm okay. Or how people, oh, there we go. Joyce has a special way to add a little color to the festivities. This will work. This is okay.
It's backward.
How's this? Yeah.
You're Cowboy Dave.
Cowboy Dave on the Dave's Gone By Facebookio, Podcastio, Programmio of the Stream.
The watch party now.
Joyce is starting the watch party, so lots of people can join us in the Dave. I've got to figure out how this, no, that's certainly not how it works best on me. Anyway, Fred from Friendy's already with us, and I expect a lot of other folks will be joining us because, well, I'll tell you why after we do our intro.
There goes the neighborhood.
And there was much rejoicing.
Didn't your meds kick in yet?
We got David Lefkowitz here. He's a Long Island arts guy. He's got his own radio show.
I want you all to really enjoy a wonderful, a fine artist.
A glorious thing of unparalleled beauty.
Dave's Gone By. Dave is one of my very favorite broadcasters, so keep on listening to Mr. Dave.
Well, as I said, here goes the neighborhood on this Saturday, last Saturday in March. And hasn't it been a delightful month? Hasn't March been everything that we hoped it would be, and quite a lot more? I love it. I have such a big head, and yet this is what happens. Can you turn down the volume there? By the way, welcome to Fred and Jeff and Paul and John, of course, John, who tunes in every Saturday morning from 9 until noon or thereabouts for Dave's Gone By, a mix of humor and talk and interviews and a little bit. We used to play more music. We can't play music anymore, but we can do, as a matter of fact, just that snippet of Captain Beefheart.
Say hi to Tony.
Hi, Tony. Captain Beefheart and the Magic Band's Tropical Hot Dog Night gets me in trouble when I try to post these shows, post-mortem on YouTube and Facebook and stuff. They're like, they say, no, you can't do this, or your video cannot be monetized. They don't block it, but WEA whatever says, no, you're using 4 seconds of a Captain Beefheart tune. We can't allow that. But anyway, who tuned in? Who were you saying hi to?
I'm not telling you now. You made me mad.
Well, Joyce is mad at me now because I'm trying to have what?
It's Tony Sportiello,
Oh, Tony.
Jim Celeste, and Will Romero.
Celeste?
Jim Celeste.
Oh, yeah.
And Will Romero.
And Paul says, hey, and I say, hey, back to Paul. Wait, now this is, let me give him, oh, God, I'm so bald. Look how bald I am, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm going to say, wear your own hats.
This is, you might as well. If well, people are already wearing masks, so it might be a little much to ask them to wear hats. No physical part of their skins will be exposed to the universe when they do that. But anyway, welcome also to a different Tony.
Billy and Elliot, two separate people.
Billy Elliot.
No,
There's
Billy
a
and
dance in
Elliot.
Billy and Elliot are there as well. So cool. Everybody's tuning in, not just for me, Dave Lefkowitz, and not for my darling and adorable wife, Joyce, and not even for our regular guest, Potato. Hi. Oh no. Don't cough on me. Stay over there, Potato.
David, look, his eyes hanging down. That's not good.
I got leprosy. You don't have leprosy, Potato. Let me check your hat. Your hat is staying on. Your limbs are on. Your eyes or nose. Nothing's coming off. Look. Oh no. One of my eyes. My eye is dangling. I got the leprosy. All right. Well, Potato, I promise I'll take you. Hung, should we take him to a virtual doctor?
We can take him to a virtual farmer. He's a potato. We can take him to a virtual grocer. Maybe Instacart can take care of him.
That's right. That's Potato. We can bring you to a virtual grocer with a virtual Instacart, and they can look you over.
I think
check out your eye.
It's a good sign, David. He lost weight, that his eye's hanging. He's looking good.
Oh, that's right. You may have to have Paul.
Oh, Andre joined. What?
Welcome, Andre. Paul writes, and I quote, quote,
no.
He's coughing and he's sputtering.
Oh,
I don't get it. I know, Potato. I know. Anyway.
Anything with more than one syllable, Potato's lost. We used to have those little hearts, but I can't find them. I wanted to string them.
Oh,
where did you put it?
Probably in a drawer somewhere.
They're in a packet, yeah.
They're probably in a drawer somewhere.
Let me go look.
Joyce is going to go rifling through my drawers, which I really enjoy. So anyway, they're not tuning in for me, not for Potato either, but they're tuning in for our very special guest who will be coming up in a while. His name is Ben Katchor, and he's one of those lucky, brilliant people. More than lucky, it's brilliant people who has won what they call a Genius Grant, a MacArthur Foundation grant for what he does. He also has won a Guggenheim Fellowship for his work. Well, what is that work? He is, for those of you who are maybe more familiar with folks like Alison Bechdel or, who's the mouse guy? Art Spiegelman. He is an illustrator, cartoonist, not so much an animator, but that sort of word. He draws. And he draws with words too, and tells stories. He started in the comic strip form, and now he's also doing, or has moved on also to a bit of graphic novel form. His name is Ben Katchor, and I have known Ben, must be about, 25 years that we met him? Or, 20 years since I've known you, and since then. But Ben used to do a strip for, I'm doing a strip right now.
Can you do me a favor?
Yeah. Well, we're going to put up some, something to make this less stark.
This may get dicey.
Okay. Well, let's see how this works. Oh my gosh. Joyce is tying a string of hearts around our lamp here. We have a brand new lamp that we're... it's just a battery.
No, it's not. Here, take this.
Oh, okay, that's that. Oh, yeah, no, it's not battery. That's our power source. Yes. Here we go. All right. And she's going to string it here and lower. So, no. You need to come see this. No. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Why not? Get a little bit of graphic animation here. In honor of our guest, Ben Katchor, who used to do a panel, I guess you would call it, for the Jewish Daily Forward. He's also had cartoons. I mean, he may kill me for calling them cartoons. I don't know what else to call them.
There's drawings.
Drawings for the New Yorker. He's got a brand new book out called The Dairy Restaurant. So we're going to talk all about that. He also
You know what his next book will be?
What's that?
The Meat Restaurant. And then the next one, the Parv Restaurant.
Oh, the Parv Restaurant.
Is that good?
Yeah, that is actually lovely.
Okay.
That really works. I wish we'd done this on Valentine's Day. Actually, there's a lot of things I wish we'd done on Valentine's Day.
That's the best I can do.
It's fabulous. Actually, this is what I need. It gives a little bit of a visual.
If it falls, David, there's tape here.
Yeah, fantastic. So, Ben is with us, and Ben should be
You got to see me moving it out.
There you go. But it gives it sparkle. Let's see if I can aim the light a little better. Eyeballs.
Yeah, they're shiny. Some are shiny.
I was never good at this. When I went.
Cindy and Renee joined.
Welcome to Cindy and Renee. When I went.
Andre, Renee, and Cindy.
What? Andre, Renee, or Cindy?
Look how much nicer it looks.
Yeah, it's got stuff now. This is great. But when I was at NYU studying film and TV, I was never good.
It's called TV.
With the design of film, TV, and radio, lighting. Sound design I was okay with. light, avoid the shadow that's directly here and this, and unless you're doing a horror movie, in which case all the mistakes actually count because it's supposed to look weird. But yeah, I'm trying to do this so it's very, very flat lighting, but at least it's lit. And it's not a sunny day out, so this is really helpful here. Let's see. Oh, Paul is giving me.
What?
Oh, this is exciting because Rabbi Saul Solomon is going to be with us later in the show. He will be interviewing Ben Katchor. Who better to interview the guy whose first book was called The Jew of New York, right?
Yeah.
So Rabbi Saul will be here, and I'm going to tell this joke to him when I see him. Paul writes that his favorite Jewish joke meme on Facebook this week is... Here, this is the definition of irony. Passover is being canceled this year because of a plague.
Wow.
That's the best you can do? Wow. That's at least a badum.
I'm doing, okay, hold on.
Well, I'll tell the joke again. Passover is being canceled because of, look, red, white, and blue. This is very nice. And yes, Rabbi Saul will be with us. The hat is davening on my head as we speak, ladies and gentlemen. And by the way, welcome also to, oh wow, David. He's a press guy from going way back.
That must be a joke.
So, Ben Katchor, Rabbi Saul Solomon, also Greeley crimes and old times. We do have that. There's still apparently crime and activities going on in Greeley, Colorado, where Joyce and I used to live, albeit a lot less of it and a lot more happening in the home. But Greeley crimes and old times, our today-yesterday quiz, and I know this is Cynthia and Jeff. We always play our trivia game on here against them. People try and type in their answers before Cynthia and Jeff come up with theirs. And I was wondering, the last couple of weeks, where have Cynthia and Jeff been? And there's been medical stuff. Their kid, the guy, and I told this story on here a couple of weeks ago. When I was on the Long Island Railroad, I'll tell it quickly again. Back when the Long Island Railroad was taking a bunch of passengers many times a day, I'm sitting there, and the conductor comes up to me and wants to look at my ticket.
Did he use the poop stick?
He did. He used the poop stick, indeed. We'll talk about that, too. We've been watching Paradise PD.
A lot of Netflix. Thanks, Auntie Diditi, who gives us the goddess of Netflix.
So on the train, conductor asked for my... And he's looking at me. And that's always bad news. That's always... When a conductor on the train is spending more than a quarter second with you, it means something's wrong with your ticket. Or something's off. Something's not going to be good, and you're going to be fighting with them and maybe thrown off the train by police.
Oh.
But the conductor's looking at me, and I'm, okay, here's my ticket. He goes, you look familiar. I'm like, okay. And he's like, do you host, and this is the greatest moments in history, do you host some kind of show on computer or on TV, something? And right then and there, I kind of went all blushy, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm famous in a very, very, very tiny, small, ridiculous circle. A Long Island Railroad conductor kind of recognizes my face from a show he doesn't know where he saw it or what it is. But yeah, this is the first step to world domination.
It could have been the Fringe Festival too, Booby.
Could have been that. It could have been anything. Mm-hmm. But he, and then he said, oh yeah, my parents watch your show every Saturday morning. I told him, it's Dave's Gone By. And it was like, yay, yay, yay. And then he talks a little bit more about his folks. And I realized instantly that they're Cynthia and Jeff. They're the folks that we play our trivia game against. Yeah,
I have to tell you, today we got the most unusual names. We got, we have Danita, Brownwell, Brunel, Edward, Danita,
Edward,
Leos, and Michael.
Fantastic. Welcome, everybody. We're going to get all sorts of new and different people watching the show because of Ben Katchor.
I put Ben Katchor with an O-R. And
yes.
I said Ben Katchor will join us, yeah.
Yeah.
It's called The Dairy Restaurant.
It's his new book. We're calling...
Here's an unusual name.
The Dairy...
James? Have you heard that name?
Chames.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
that's how we pronounce it in the Dairy. Chames, yeah.
And Carre?
Like Carrie? Oh, Carre.
Yeah.
So... He's telling me about his parents, Cynthia and Jeff, and I realized not only are the folks who watch my show and correspond with me during the show when they're playing our trivia game, but he's their son and they're my cousins. So out of nowhere, in this whole, as they say, 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, as they say, small world, out of nowhere, this stranger conductor comes up to me and introduces and says, hey, I know you, I think I know you from somewhere. And he turns out to be like a second cousin of mine. That's the world. That's the neighborhood we live in. And now this second cousin has coronavirus. So that's what Cynthia and Jeff and he, forgive me for not remembering his name, but that's what we're all dealing with right now. Is their kid has the virus. I don't know. I'm assuming he's fine. He's out of the woods. He's a youngish man, a lot younger than I am. Not that it apparently necessarily matters with this thing. I was asking like last week. I'd like to really know the demographics of the dead. And I know some of you are going to turn off the thing right now because you're coming here as an oasis from talking about corona. But do we know? I mean, is it killing much more old people? Is it killing more people in Chinatown because it came from Wuhan and because it's so densely clustered there? Or not? You know? Is it killing even what was his name? Cuomo and de Blasio were thinking, well, in certain cases, have we, because of this isolating, have we put family members together instead of letting them go outside and get air? And now they're clustering and giving each other corona.
We have Alexander, Aleks.
That's very Russian, yeah.
Yeah, Alexander and Alan. We have a lot of different names.
This is wonderful. Welcome, everybody. If you don't know...
Teresa!
Teresa... With a B?
Teresa, my old roomie, I'm going to say, hey,
welcome, Teresa. And Paul, I'm sorry, I haven't gotten my Paul fix for a couple of minutes. He's looking for virtual brisket recipes. You can't really cook a virtual brisket because you can't touch it, you can't hold it. It's amorphous.
Tell him ask the rabbi later.
Can you use Kevin Bacon if you're Jewish, or should you avoid treif? Aha! Get it? Bacon? Don't egg him on. He's just a ham. I feel rather piggish making these kinds of jokes. I might have to hawk this computer if I don't get paid. No, anyway. Hawk, ham, hawk. Did you get that one?
Tell him you should watch Shaun the Sheep.
Oh! So here's the deal. We've been watching, even more than usual, tons and tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of Netflix and Acorn, because what else are you going to do, right? Joyce, amazingly enough, is working and working and working and working and working all day. I'm working on my own stuff all day, but my day job is like, just got the notification last night, in fact, that I'm not going back to work on April 2nd, as I was supposed to be going back to work on April 2nd, and now we're supposed to go back to work on Pot Day. They actually moved 3 weeks from when we were first supposed to start. It is scary and mind-blowing, and I know nobody wants to hear about this, but I was scared this week. I was the first guy making fun of this stuff 3-4 weeks ago. I was the one. There was a woman who worked in our in where I work a month and a half ago, and I saw her, and I don't get along with, a lot of people don't get along with her, but I saw her downstairs with gloves and not Windex, what's the other, Clorox or what's the other spray stuff that you use?
Hot sauce.
That's right. She was using Cholula, and because that kills everything. If you put Cholula on something.
Richard joined us.
Who did?
Richard.
My Richard?
No, Goldklein.
Oh my God, Richie.
Do you know him?
For 25 years, absolutely, Richie. He put together one of the first computers I used. So anyway, but where the hell was I?
Oh shoot, you were making fun.
Oh, this woman was clean, and I'm like, seriously? This is before. I mean, this was when people were still on the ship. If you remember that far back, when it was just a few, unlucky folks on this cruise ship who were being quarantined, and it's like, oh, keep them on the ship. That's it. We're fine. No problem. And meanwhile, here this woman is with gloves, and she's like, I'm cleaning the computers because, and like, seriously, rubber gloves? And you don't know the mess they make. Well, I apologize to the world.
She knew the mess.
She was on it, We didn't, and I certainly didn't No, I'm not going to be one of these people who's tisk-tisking at everyone from de Blasio to Trump and saying they didn't take this seriously. Shame on who did?
But
it was a flu.
The difference is like, it's not our job. They have CDC, they have NIH. Those people were telling Trump. Trump did not listen.
I had CDC when I was a child. I stayed at home for a week. I wore mittens. I got over it. But
you're lit today.
It's
Play
sick
your
coming.
xylophone. It's some xylophone.
Let's do some xylophone on that. But I'll say this, like, when I do this program, as you can see, I'm not one of these John Gambling sort of FM late night 1968 radio guys who are like, well, everybody, we're watching the Dave's Gone By program with me, Dave, and
you would be like
hope
that
you're
if you
enjoying
were
the show.
medicated properly.
Yeah, if I were truly on Xanax, as I should be. Yeah, I'd be like this. And we got Ben Katchor coming up, and Rabbi Saul. He's a Jewish fella. I don't know if you know him. He's going to be joining us to talk about all the things that's going on in the world. But right now, here's some spooky tooth. It's like
spooky tooth. What the frick is a spooky tooth?
So if I were like that, it wouldn't be a big deal. But whether I'm on camera here, or whether I'm doing a show in front of 80 people in an off-Broadway theater, I'm the same person, and it's almost the same big voice. It's the same projection. It's the same me, which means that when I do this for 3.5 or 4 hours on a Saturday morning, by the time it's over, I'm like, and my throat tends to be a little sore and raspy and shot. It's sore right now already, and I just started the show. But last week, like Saturday all day, my throat was raspy. Woke up on Sunday morning, my throat was still sore. And my throat was not right for Sunday and into Monday and kind of Tuesday and here and there. And I'm thinking, this is not the show anymore. This is not me getting over blowing out my vocal cords for 3.5 hours on a Saturday morning. I got it. I got the virus. I'm harboring it. And it's just a matter of moments or days or minutes before it gets me. Right? This is bound to happen. They're saying if 1 out of every 2 people in New Jersey is supposed to be carrying this virus, you have to imagine that it's going to be about the same in New York, too. And that's oh, crap. Yeah. And meanwhile, I'm living here with my darling, adorable wife, so I could possibly infect her. As I've been...
Is that what you were trying to do?
Usually I'm trying to inject you.
Is that what you're calling it now? I didn't know that was a new name.
As I dear, let me give you a special shot. Oh, and plus we're living, God help us, with my parents, and have been for many months now. And now we can't really leave my parents for a while. And my parents they're a little bit older than I am.
I would hope so.
And not always in the very best of health and physical condition. So I'm thinking, fantastic. I'm going to get this horrible virus. I'm going to kill mom and dad. I'm going to make my wife sad. I'm going to die. This is it. This is how I'm going to die. I'm going to be lying here in this room, taking my old episodes of the show, fixing them up because a lot of the links have been broken, and I've been curing them and making them okay again, and watching Netflix and eating and dying. That'll be my 56 years on Earth. And then, I don't know, somewhere around like Thursday, my throat got a little better. And it didn't manifest at this point with other illnesses, other ailments and things. And yet I'm not panicking. I'm not like, seeing, as they do in The Seventh Seal, the angel of death dancing along there with these people who all have the plague and they're going off to the netherworld, and the knight and the chess player and all that. So, no, it's like I felt better, and yet, of course, I'm reading about all these cases of the virus where they get it, they get hit, they get the fever, they get the chill, they get horrible aches and stabbing pains, and then they kind of get over it, and it comes back, and then they get over it. So I'm still sort of like, and you don't want to keep reading and listening to this all day, but at the same time, you don't want to miss anything important. You don't want to miss that one little key piece of information of like, oh yeah, I probably shouldn't do this for the next 2 weeks if and so
I
forth.
think your naked dance through the neighborhood, screaming, "Watch my wing! My jingle hopper's got to stop."
This is true. And I'm going to stop showing the neighbors my jingle hopper. Cynthia tuned in.
Yeah.
Cynthia, how's your kid? Please tell. I mean, I divulged and hey, cuz, she says.
Wow,
How is my second cuz? What?
Kevin, Trevor, Michael, and W. John.
W. John. Whoa.
Now we not only have people with exotic names, we have people who use initials.
This is hey, and we get double initials like C.W. McCall or something like that, or J.J. Hunsecker. We're really going to be rolling. What else we got? Thank you. Paul is funnier than I. Paul, I don't want to lose you as a viewer, but you really should do your own podcast because you're pretty damn funny. He says, if I didn't kill my parents when I went into show business, they're probably pretty tough.
Does he know them? He must know them. That's too close. Too close.
Paul, do I actually know you from another way than just you're tuning in?
You gotta know Paul. Paul? What is Paul's name? I'll look. Tell me.
I hope you don't mind if I say it on the air.
No, just look at me.
One moment, please.
Okay.
Rhymes with mucus. How's that? Speaking of mucus, yeah, Cynthia is cursing the Long Island Railroad because I'm sure that's where it's possible your son caught it on the LIRR. It's possible he caught it any other possible place. What I don't understand is why they're closing things like beaches and boardwalks. And they said, if you're used to going out for a nice long bike ride, stop doing that. And I'm like, why? The one thing, if you are on a bike, you're not going to get 6 feet close to really anybody. The whole point is, if you're on a bike, people steer clear of you, because unless you're a bike messenger in New York, where you're purposely aiming to hit people as you bring your package to some building. But if you're just out for a spin, or if you're a racy type biker, and if you wear racy clothes,
and a writer, that's why.
Oh, Paul is cool. We just traveled in the same cabaret circles over the years, he says.
Oh, wow, Randy joined.
Randy... Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Randy, by the way, if you ever want to be on this program, just let me know. Randy is watching.
Show him your hat.
It's a her. It's a very, very fine actress.
Tell Randy
yes.
You could wear the hat.
Hello.
Now make it appeal with your hat.
I believe she was in City of Angels and in one of my favorite musicals of all time, A Class Act. Maybe that's why, because we had the guy who starred in that on a couple of weeks ago. Anyway, forgive me for... so here's but could someone explain to me, like Cynthia is rightly saying, they have the conductors on the Long Island Railroad as this was going on and they're not wearing masks, right? Now, granted, a long conductor is probably going to be more likely to give the plague to a passenger than the other way around, because spit easier goes downward than upward. So if the Long Island Railroad conductor is standing there, tickets please, punch, here you go, and the saliva and the drool and the sputum and the vomit is coming and hitting the person sitting on the it's more likely, waterfalls don't go up. Snot falls go down.
People are trying to eat their breakfast.
I'm just saying.
Will joined us.
So it is possible that your son got this corona on the LIR from dealing with passengers and from not worrying. But what I'm saying is he was more likely to give your other people what he got from not wearing a mask. The mask is more to protect the other person than you, I'm assuming, because the mask doesn't cover your eyes. It would be pretty funny if all around New York, everyone became Ray Charles now, and we all had to wear, if we wanted to go anywhere, masks both over our mouths and our eyes, because if it goes in your eyes, it's just as bad as going in your mouth. And so we just kind of walk around just to get outdoors. But, hon, again, you would know better than I. What is wrong with being on a beach in the great outdoors, as long as you give other people distance?
No, I think what they're afraid of is people are going to flock there. Like, if there's nothing else to do, like the kids are going to stay home and play their Nintendo or play their games.
They will!
But they're afraid, like, people, all the athletes, and there'll be a mass exodus of people going to the beach.
Well, they had, I think in the New York Post, a big picture of cops in Florida.
Oh, Lisa joined.
Lisa A? Walpe. Oh, okay, I don't know who that is. But welcome anyway, and welcome to Janine and Arlene.
Like a language test, David.
But I mean, I get it. But when they Janine. Oh, yeah. Oh. Well, yeah. Oh, my gosh, she's been a viewer for a long, long time. Welcome to Janine. Yeah, Cynthia saying, and I get it in Florida on spring break when the cops were arresting all these hot girls, and you cannot tell me that the cops were really there protecting the public good, right? When they show that picture in the New York Post, that's going to be a classic picture where the cop is talking to this unbelievably hot blonde girl in a bikini. You don't even see her, but it's just like the body. Joyce is looking at me. I'm just saying, yeah. And there was no particular reason to deal with her or arrest her. He's just like, ma'am, we're trying to protect people here. Can I get your social security and your both phone numbers? Yeah, that's fine. I need to check your apartment. Come on. I get if people are partying too close and giving each other these, but can you explain to me
what happened
if you're solo on a bicycle?
Yeah, but you're not going to be probably. What happened at spring break? Was it crowded?
Yeah, kids who are 20 years old either do not understand that they can die, right? Or they want to die young, leave a good-looking corpse.
Oh,
they don't.
Janine says even Las Vegas was calm.
Calm?
I guess, because people probably go for spring break in Vegas.
Oh,
don't you think? I mean,
right.
I would think that's like a destination. I'm going to say for spring break.
Yeah. No, I get closing the casinos because casinos you got people on top of people on top of people. I would reopen the casinos if you leave about 20 feet between machines.
Yeah, but the smoke from the people smoking would probably.
Yeah. Paul has to leave, but he'll be back. Well, Paul, make sure you come back, because by sometime around 11 o'clock, we're going to have Ben Katchor in the neighborhood. The guy won a Genius Grant. A MacArthur Grant for his drawing, for his illustrating, for his. I'll call them comic strips. Forgive me if that's the wrong terminology these days. He's got a new book out called The Dairy Restaurant. He'll be talking to Rabbi Sol Solomon. And we'll also have our Today, Yesterday quiz. So Cynthia and Jeff, do stay tuned. We'll also have Greeley Crimes and Old Times. I don't know if I'll do story time today. We'll have a Colorado Limerick of the Damned. We're going to be going to Lincoln, Colorado. And we will do a little bit of Inside Broadway with some Broadway news, even though Broadway, as we know it, is temporarily moribund. Cynthia is saying one of the reasons that they would close Las Vegas is not just the proximity of people, but every time somebody uses a machine, it's like, oh, you're touching this, and the croupier tosses out the dice, and you're picking this up, and you're touching that, and you're licking, and you're throwing.
Ew.
Is this touching?
Who licks the dice?
Well, cards, man. They hand out cards.
Oh, yeah.
You can't be touching and handing and touching.
Can't they just do virtual, like you're at home, you log in?
Yeah, but that's not Vegas. Virtual gambling you can do
anywhere.
Yeah. It doesn't bring you to Atlantic City. It doesn't bring you to Vegas for the experience, for the noise and the thing of like every time you walk in, you feel like you're on The Price is Right because it's just complete sensory overload. That's why people go to a rave party. Not that I've ever been to a party. I never raved about a party in my life, but I can go into my room, turn a light on and off, and play music really, really loud, where it starts affecting my heartbeat, and go, oh, this is fun. Not fun, but for certain people, this is fun if you do the same thing in a room with 1,000 other people, 500 of whom you want to sleep with. This is what people do. And want to do, and why.
Oh, John joined. What is it?
John and David from my high school.
He said, see you on the flip side. I don't know what that means.
That means, Gene, I hope you're not dying and you'll see me on the other side of the world. But, yeah.
John and David joined.
Welcome, and Jolinda. Oh my God, all our usual people. This is so great that so many people are tuning in.
Home week.
Yeah. What else do I want to talk about Corona? You know what I also thought about?
Oh, God.
And this occurred to me, and the minute it occurred to me, of course, I Googled it, and it was a thing.
What?
I wasn't not even compass mentis of this, right? There's going to be, I think there's already 30,000 dead or something like that. Not in America, but everywhere.
Yeah.
Funerals.
Mm-hmm.
How do you do a funeral?
Virtual.
I mean, think about it.
Virtual funeral.
You can't get all these old people who knew the person in a room together. You gotta, I guess they take the body, and you just get the immediate family to the grave site. You can't even bring 20 people standing around a grave. What can you do?
You do virtual.
Yeah.
The funeral homes do virtual.
Wow. I mean, that really spooked me.
Richard joined.
Oh, another Richard, welcome. Well, yeah, Cynthia's like, enough with the news, enough with the news. Is there anything else?
I agree, Cynthia.
Yeah.
You go, sister.
You're
a happy place. Make it happy.
One of the things that still amuses me, though, and getting away from the news, is what is considered essential and what is not. I think I talked a little bit about this last, like my deli, the local kosher deli that we have, which is not a supermarket, which is not a grocery store. It's a Jewish delicatessen. Really great food, really overpriced, such is the way of kosher food, but they're open, right? And I'm like, great. I think we used them 3 times this week, and it's a blessing. But essential is a pastrami sandwich. I mean, we're not talking about cereal, milk, and fresh water. We're talking about a cured pastrami sandwich with half sour pickles. If you're a Jew, this is essential food. But essential in a deep, meaningful way. The bakery, which I think closed early yesterday. I don't know why. I think they closed everything on Broadway. But there's a kosher bakery in our neighborhood. Great. They make bread. They make fabulous little cakes. They make okay hamantaschen, and a very nice bakery, very good bakery. Also incredibly expensive, but all bakeries are. And they're open, or they have been open as essential service. Great. I guess it's, as you said, Joyce, it's prepared food. There's like this idea that people can't necessarily cook, and they need to be able to go to places. But at what point is babka an essential
babka
food?
Is essential, darling.
It is. And the hilarious part is Joyce and I, as we said, we're living in Colorado for 9 years. Marijuana dispensaries in Colorado are open.
I asked my friend who was there, I was WeChatting her, WhatsApping her, and I said, oh, how funny, I wonder if the dispensaries are essential. And she said, right before they shut down Colorado, all the dispensaries had lines out the door. People were like, I'll take 12 pounds of your best, Iron Mountain, whatever, people were like stocking up.
And they're pushing the kush, like, it's like, And yet, because, as you said, probably people with cancer, people who really need that filled medically.
You don't want people to go through marijuana withdrawal. They're nice and calm and sedate. They'll stay in their... People will stay in their house for years playing video games and eating Doritos. They won't know. They'll be like, yo, man, what's up?
That doesn't sound like a bad life to me, actually. I know. I'm a shut-in. I'm one of those people who can stay in the house about 3 days in a row before I even have to venture outside, before I need to see a little fresh air and people. I'm fine.
What we got Target beside the lamps?
What did we get from Target beside the lamp? Exercise equipment? You want to talk about my... yes, I was able to buy new underpants. This is exciting to me. Usually I shop for underpants in person because I like to try them on. I like to pee in them a little and see how they wick the sweat. In this case, I had to buy them online, and they're really nice. They're odor controlling. I don't know how. They're not scented or anything, but they're really very pleasant. And I'm wearing them as we speak. My brand new, which I realized I didn't change this morning. I haven't changed them since yesterday. So perhaps they don't wick quite as much of the odor away as we hoped. And by the way, Paul says,
what?
And I quote, "Wait, they can cure pastrami, but they can't cure corona?" Blame that one on him. That's not mine, ladies and gentlemen.
Paul.
That's Paul. That's totally
We got to make it think. Oh, Paul.
Oh, Paul. Yeah. Wait. Paul. Next time you make a pun like that.
Oh,
Paul. I can't make it. How do you make the potato go like? Oh, if he looks down, like. Oh, Paul. So, Paul, next time, keep making them. By the way, Paul, and some of them I'll say on the air. And if they're like that, you will get a reaction from potato. I like that idea.
Randy joined.
Welcome. Which Randy? The same? Different?
I don't know, another one and then a Billy.
Well, welcome to Randy. Billy, don't be a hero. Don't be a fool with your life. So we're being foolish here on Dave, because why not? I'm surprised we don't have 12,000 viewers watching right now, because what the hell else do you have to do?
Because they can't get on the interwebs. I mean, I'm going to use a hotspot. The party's going on, but you're kind of stuck on my thing.
I'm going to use your hotspot later, baby. That's what I'm saying. Oh, yeah.
That's right.
Do you think we'll have a baby boom?
I think we will.
Yeah.
I predict it.
Or maybe people are so now addicted to their devices and their phones and their Hulus and their Netflix that it's like in the old days when there really was nothing to do, like the 1970s New York blackout or the 1300s plague. What did you do? Okay, you tried to read during the daylight.
If you could read.
If you could, yeah, in the 1300s, but and sit out on the stoop and drink beer, and it would be warm beer anyway. It was an ice box, and then you go home and you bang your partner, and probably bang them again before you went to sleep. Now people are like, they're still, YouTube's working. I think I'll do that. Pornhub has premium.
Oh, Warhol joined.
Well, Warhol was waiting for you. Where are you, Warhol? Now, Cynthia says this is day 7, locked in her bedroom. Depends who you're locked in there with.
Oh my God.
You can't leave even the bed.
Cynthia,
because you're your son.
TMI.
Yeah. Oh, and Suzanne. Welcome to Suzanne. She's part of the John Montgomery Theater Company. She and her husband were on the show a couple of months ago, and they're two-timing me, ladies and gentlemen. They were 2 times on this program, which is called Dave's Gone By, with me, Dave Lefkowitz. If you want to find out more, if this is your first time, and I'm sure your last, watching this show, we've been doing this since October of 2002. And if you don't believe me, trust me, because I've been going through all the archives, and they're all there at davesgoneby.com. It's Dave like my name, DAVESGONE, davesgoneby.com. You can download the audios of the old shows or just sort of stream them on your computer if you're afraid of catching a computer virus. But either way, they're a lot of fun. The early shows were on terrestrial radio. They're an hour or an hour and a half long. Once we moved to Colorado, they became 3 or 4 hours long. We got them all there, and it's free. I'm not charging any, not that anybody would pay for this, but there's no fee. So if you're looking for a way to spend the next month without leaving your house, start at episode 1 and work your way up to last week, which was episode 738 of this program, Dave's Gone By. They're all there. davesgoneby.com. The last 2.5 years we're also on video because we've been doing them on Facebook too. So it's as much a kind of a TV show now as it is still essentially radio podcast. But either way, check the archives out. You'll be amazed at the guests we've had on over the years and the fun and the zinginess and the coolness that we've had on the program. Let's see. Paul is giving us a little TMI here. I ran off to the bathroom for a second, so I don't know if you liked or hated what I typed before. And I said, what I said was, Paul, when you make a joke like that, and he doesn't know what it'll be, we'll have a reaction for you. When you make a pun that is unendurable, we will have a reaction. Cynthia says, I need a groan button for these jokes. Well, Cynthia, you're a grown woman.
So tell Cynthia to practice alone. Have her practice the old Paul. Ready?
Paul, why don't you practice with Potato? Let's all do this together. Since we're trying to be interactive, the way all these videos are going and all these Broadway people are going, since they're isolated, let's all share this moment together. Paul, I was saying in the age of social distancing, they're going to need to start doing hyper-local weather reports. I need to know what the weather is going to be like in my living room tomorrow. That's not really a pun, Paul.
That's okay, so then we do it. What do you think of that?
Well, let's make believe that was a really bad pun. Okay.
3, 2, 1.
Oh, Paul! Huh?
Cynthia,
Try that again, Cynthia. I didn't hear you, Cynthia. Louder, Cynthia. 1, 3, 2, 1. Oh, Paul! Even when one of us makes a bad pun like that, We should still say, "Oh, Paul."
Yes.
I'm liking this.
Yeah,
I am
that's
liking
a
this
new
a
meme.
lot.
It's a new meme. It could be hashtag Oh Paul.
There you go.
I'm gonna put it in the chat group.
Paul, you're bringing new memeing to our lives. There you go. Anyway, let's
I did hashtag Oh Paul.
I don't know about Corona anymore.
Then go
There's
to
nothing
the
else to
next
talk about, though. What?
Yeah, go to the next one. You could talk about Shaun the Sheep. You could talk
Oh,
about...
I know what I can do. I was trying to. I didn't get a chance to tell you this yesterday.
What?
But out of the blue,
Mm-hmm.
this shocked the hell out of everyone in the universe. Now for 8 years, all we've been hearing from a certain musician is him doing cover versions of songs from the Great American Songbook. Right?
Yeah.
All that Bob Dylan has been giving us
Oh, no.
for 3 straight successive albums, like Triplicate and not Strangers in the Night. I forget. Falling Angels is one of the
What
albums.
was the one where he sang... some enchanted...
I mean, literally, this is what he's doing. He's doing Rodgers and Hammerstein canon. I'm done. That's Tom Waits more than Dylan. But this is what he's been doing, and
Uh-oh, is it about a president?
yes, it's been this thing of, and it's made me really sad because kind of like Stephen Sondheim and Jerry Herman, here's a guy who may not be in his complete prime as a songwriter, and certainly not as a singer, but he spent the past decade giving us something that's kind of a way station, something that, we tolerate because he's Bob. And then it's like, okay, Bob, yeah, no, and we'll go in the concert, and a third of your songs are going to be you doing Hoagie Carmichael numbers. Thanks, Bob. Nice to see you. Now, do something from Bringing It All Back Home. We tolerate it. It's okay. We're happy to hear it. We're happy you're alive, right? But
It's
really,
17 minutes.
you can still sing songs. You can still write songs. You can still do. Why aren't you doing that? Jerry Herman, right after La Cage aux Folles, he wrote, I think, a TV thing called Mrs. Santa Claus. Nothing. Now, Jerry Herman, yeah, he was HIV positive. He was dealing with that, but he was fine. He was a healthy man with all his mental faculties, with a big old piano in his house, and he didn't write another musical. Sondheim, he did one called Bounce or Roadshow. That was a flop off Broadway. 20 years. And that guy, he's just celebrating his 90th birthday. He's okay. As opposed to someone like Neil Young, who's still putting out like 2 albums a year. And those albums aren't great.
About the thing we saw yesterday.
Yeah, Neil Young, not only that, this is way cool. He and his wife, Daryl Hannah, she's taking footage of him doing like fireside concerts where he's just sitting there with an acoustic guitar or going outside in the snow and singing some of his, either his classic hits or also some of his lesser known pieces. And he's just kind of hanging with us. And we see him washing his hands in his magnificent bathroom. Really, because he's like sitting there washing his hands singing Happy Birthday to You. To remind everybody, this is what we're all doing now, right? So that's what Neil Young's doing. And Dylan, we're wondering, what the hell, right? He was in the Scorsese movie. We know he's still okay. We know he's still been touring up until a couple of weeks ago. And we know that he's still got all his wits about him. So why the hell isn't he occasionally putting out an album? We know he's not 18 anymore. We know it's not 1962 and songs are just gushing out of him like a fountain or a volcano. So we come to a figure, okay, this is the last chapter, the last act in Dylan's thing. And then out of nowhere, yesterday morning or Thursday night, he tweets. And he says, "Hi, everybody, Bob Dylan here." Okay, thank you, Bob. It's strange times. Here's a little song we did a little while ago. Enjoy it, and stay safe, stay healthy, and God be with you. And that's actually a quote. Stay safe,
Good.
God be with you, Bob Dylan. And then you look, and the song is, as Joyce said, it's the longest song he's ever done. It's 17 minutes long. And you look, and it's a song, of all things, about the Kennedy assassination. Seriously.
Yeah.
And it's called Murder Most Foul.
Read
Yeah. Well, here's the deal.
Ooh,
So, but you
read
figure, okay, let me check this out.
And here's the line, "What's New Pussycat?" right there.
The last song that Dylan did that was like 16 minutes long, was the last song on the last original album he released called Tempest. And it was this endless song about the Titanic. Titanic itself and Titanic the movie.
Just don't break the window of you.
Oh, I won't. Oh, yeah.
Read the
Sorry.
lines.
I will. So I was not having high hopes for this because the Titanic song is kind of incredibly boring and mostly terrible. And it's sort of like Highlands, that song that he ended Time Out of Mind with, which is actually pretty good. So I checked this out, 17 minutes of a song about the assassination of President Kennedy. And he starts it, and the lines are like lines that I was writing as an 8th grader. If they were telling me to write a poem about the death of President Kennedy, when I was this is the kind of writing that I was doing. And then the song goes on, and on, and on. And it's really about the 60s and the end of the 60s and the Kennedy assassination and the dark cloud hanging over all of us. And it's great. It's amazing. It's called Murder Most... Don't listen to it now, please. Watch my show. Here's some of the lines. Because out of context, it doesn't mean anything. He says, "What's new, pussycat?" What I say, he's quoting bunches of the songs that were coming out between the 1950s and 60s.
Read it in your language, not Bob Dylan, so people can hear it.
In my language, it's got no cadence.
Okay, do it.
"What's new, pussycat? What I say," which is the Ray Charles song. "I said the soul of a nation has been torn away, and it's beginning to go into a slow decay, and that it's 36 hours past Judgment Day." Yeah, I wasn't writing that kind of stuff when I was in 8th grade, that's for sure. So, if you get a chance after the show's over, it's called Murder Most Foul by Bob Dylan. Who knew? Only Bob Dylan would come up with another, I don't know, it's like a masterpiece. It's not necessarily a classic. But if God forbid that this is the last song that he gives us, although the New York Times intimated that he's got 8 more songs and enough to do a new album, or I should say an album of new stuff.
Wow.
And if they're on the level of this, holy crap. You want a silver lining to everything that's been going on? What's more than Dylan's back?
Kurt joined us.
Yeah. And Paul, who saw Girl from the North Country, I am assuming you're referring to the Broadway show, which is the last Broadway show I saw, and will see for a month and a half at least. Oh, come on, Paul. Paul's making fun that Dylan could never sing. Please, Dylan sings better than 99% of the rock world.
That mockumentary we saw.
Yeah, well, I mean, you've got to understand.
My favorite is
Dylan's...
One More Cup of Coffee.
Well, from that era.
Oh,
your favorite
God.
is Hattie Carroll.
Yeah, but I love One More Cup of Coffee. I played that on that little machine. It's beautiful.
And Paul, if you want to hear whether Dylan can sing, just pull out Blood on the Tracks and Desire, those 2 albums, and you might be a little surprised that it's not the way he sings now in any way, shape, or form. But anyway, silver lining, ladies and gentlemen, go figure, a 17-minute song about the Kennedy assassination. And you can't just put it on for 2 minutes and go, oh, this is kind of boring and it doesn't change and the rhymes aren't great. You gotta let it play and play and play. And let it roll over you and catch all the references to culture and to the songs of the eras. And it's actually quite, it gets you. It gets you. It's an amazing composition. So yay Corona! Yay virus! Well, it's bringing Neil Young into our living rooms.
He had it done before.
What?
Dylan had that song done a while ago and held it, you said.
He said, this is a song I did a while back. This is not a song, let's say, from the 1990s.
No, but it could have been like, December. It
could have been a Tempest outtake. Feels a little bit later than that, but it doesn't necessarily feel like he did it 2 weeks ago either. But the instrumentation is different, kind of, than the band that he's been using for these American Songbook albums. So I don't know, but it has that also feeling that he did with Blind Willie McTell and songs like that as well. Tight Connection to My Heart. Well, yeah, that's already when Dylan was singing. His voice was shot by 1979. I'm not going to argue or dispute that. But if you go between 1963 and 1977, his voice was amazing. Anyway, enough Dylan talk. It's 5 minutes to 10 in the morning, Eastern Time, here in the neighborhood on Dave's Gone By. With me, Dave Lefkowitz. Oh yeah, I'm gonna. My darling, adorable wife Joyce and Potato, and all the wonderful folks like Kurt and Paul who are tuning in.
Potato.
Well, it's not. Paul has not said anything that's that we're going to have that response to. When Paul makes a terrible pun, then we'll do the old Paul meme. But anyway, coming up on the program, our Colorado Limerick of the Damned, where I will have my modern, recently written doggerel poem about Lincoln, Colorado. It's funny, I was talking to Mary Todd Lincoln about how to approach Lincoln, and she said, take your best shot. Oh. Thank you very much. Let's see, we'll also have our Today-Yesterday quiz about March 28th. So this is a trivia quiz that we play with Cynthia and Jeff, where things have happened on March 28th.
Well, Cynthia and Jeff are like Jeopardy Ken. They're like the reigning champions.
Yes.
They're like Jeopardy.
Yeah.
Well, what was that other guy after Jeopardy?
My cousin
Ken?
Mark.
The
Mormon guy.
Yeah, he won everything. They're like him.
There's something weird about Jeopardy Ken too, but the Mormon guy was like computer.
They're like Dave's Gone By superstars.
Yeah.
You know?
So Cynthia and Jeff play the trivia game. It's called Today-Yesterday. Against them, I ask a bunch of questions about what happened in history on March 28th, which is, by the way, today of 2020. We will also have we'll go inside Broadway for a little bit. There is some Broadway news, most of it sad. And we'll have, Rabbi Sal Solomon in the neighborhood interviewing illustrator cartoonist Ben Katchor. That'll be coming up at about 11 o'clock.
Nastasia. We have a lot of...
Nastasia. Yes. And Philip. Oh my God, Philip. Now, Philip, were you from my high school or from my elementary school? I think you're from Hewlett High School. So welcome.
It's pronounced Philip.
Flip. And
Natasha.
That is pronounced Natasha. Such a lovely name. And Powell.
And we have Linda, so
Linda.
Linda.
Welcome to everybody
Linda.
And what's going to be really funny is that when the show's over, and we check how many people watch the show, Facebook will say 4 people watch the program. It gives a totally ridiculous undercount of the actual number of people who are watching and participating and enjoying Dave's Gone By. I don't know what the hell's going on with that. But I'm certainly grateful for all the people who either watch live.
Look at David, these are all the people. See this?
Yeah, I believe. Look at that. All these wonderful human beings with literally nothing better to do. Like, on an average Saturday morning, you really have 8 million better things to do than to watch me do this. But Corona, what else are you going to do? Watch this little Jewish idiot talk. And it's like, thank you. Thank you, God, for giving us a plague.
Put on your hat and show them how pretty you are.
Oh, yes, this is my special Corona hat.
No, that's your fancy hat. Because you're a dairy cowboy.
That's right. Because The Dairy Restaurant is a new book by Ben Katchor. He's also written The Jew of New York and The Carbon Copy Building and a couple of other, The Slug Bearers of Carroll Island.
I think he wrote XXX Happy Times too.
I don't know if he did that.
No, that was a different band. Okay.
He did that for hire, as it were. Well, we're getting higher and higher here on. I feel like Chuck Barris when I wear it like this. More stuff. Gene. Oh, honey, it's a dancing potato.
Wait, hold on. Keep dancing.
My eye is falling down. Wait, he's gotta get okay. Oh no! Oh. Take a little Nancy Kerrigan accent out there.
Oops.
Thank you. Yeah.
I tried.
This is the way my wife treats me, even on camera, ladies and gentlemen. There it is, ladies and gentlemen.
Put it on your head. It's pretty. I mean, put on your neck, like lower.
Like.
No. I mean, like over your hat. I couldn't get over your hat.
Oh, you mean like a little veil-y thing like this?
Oh wow! You look like a
I don't know
musketeer.
what the hell I gotta.
You look like a musketeer. Oh, Richard and Billy just joined.
Welcome to Richard and Billy. Yeah, this is comedy. This is high-level stuff. This is when Hollywood can't produce stuff, and Broadway isn't doing
Why
anything.
don't you put the thing around your neck to lay?
It's like, why don't you put the thing around your neck and just pull, and I'll be free of you.
Make it fancy.
Okay. Oh, you want it around my neck? I thought you wanted it around the
No, I
hat.
can get it over the hat. See, it gives color. See?
Yeah, there we go. Let's try this. Ooh.
Isn't your music tropical hot dog night, right? So it's like...
Dun, 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 dun,
wait, here we go. Here's what you need. Uh-oh, where is it?
What do I need? Well, you give me what I really need later, hon, but we're on camera.
Where's the...
The what? Oh, I put it safely somewhere else. I think with the musical instruments over there. If I put it somewhere, I put it with the musical instruments. But,
where are they?
Across, you're looking right at them. See the guitar and the Chinese things?
I don't...
Is it there?
No.
Oh, well then I'm wrong. Oh well.
That's
Oops.
so weird.
Joyce is looking for my special tambourine that I used when I was a child. It's a Donald Duck tambourine. Wow, I blanked. Hon, I couldn't think of a pun about tambourines. Yeah, I was going to play a song for you. And, you know, on this jingle jangle morning where you're all following me here on Facebook. It's not my jingle hopper.
That's
We
so
didn't.
weird.
Nah, don't worry about the tambourine. I got these other instruments here. I've got my trusty weekly xylophone, and we have so much stuff to do because let's see. Let's get to Greeley crimes and old times.
You
This
can
is
use this when people make their call here.
Did I bring in my folder? I thought I brought it in.
I'll go fetch it.
Fetch my folder.
Where?
What did I do with it?
I don't know. There's so much stuff in this room. I have no idea.
Well, I don't really necessarily need the folder to do this because I've got my notes, and my notes include our weekly segment called Greeley Crimes and Old Times. Now, let me explain what this is. This is based on columns that appear in the newspaper where Joyce and I used to live in northern Colorado. It's called the Greeley Tribune. And they, bless your heart.
Here's your watch, too. Did you want that?
I guess I don't
It
need
was
it
on
because I
top
can
of
see the time on here.
Folder.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
And by the way, thanks to all the people who tune into this program and like to watch. It's time for a joke like that.
Oh, wow.
Sorry, that's just one of my
Brian
ticks. What, who joined?
Brian?
Welcome to Brian. Yeah. And it's me talking. I apologize. Oh, and Stephanie, welcome to Stephanie. We did we went through our MA together over at UNC in theater education, and this is where she's teaching. She's got a real good job. I'm doing this with a day job. Although I think I'm still being paid for my day job, even though I'm not doing it. So thank you again,
God
Corona.
bless the union.
Yeah, right.
So when somebody makes a...
Oh, you're right. Cynthia reminded me. All those jokes I make about the watch. Oh, Paul.
Poor Potato. I don't think Potato's wise to it. David, when someone makes a call, use that.
Yeah, when like someone calls the police department.
Yeah.
That's important. This is good. And by the way, I mentioned the Greeley Tribune. Here it is.
Cynthia will know it because, no, not Cynthia, the woman you just said, she was in Greeley.
Stephanie. Oh, she'll know.
Yeah.
She'll know the Greeley
Ask
Tribune.
her if she read that because that's news, right?
This is before we were all worried about coronavirus.
Yes.
Greeley Tribune was worried about trees, and I show this all the time because I love it so much. This is their illustration. This is the front cover of our local newspaper back in Colorado. It's not exactly the New York Times, ladies and gentlemen.
It is not.
I love this. All the ways a tree can kill you. I kid you, this is not fake. This is absolutely real. If only. I miss the days when we were terrified of trees stalking up behind us and stabbing us.
Trees can do bad shit.
I guess that's just because I'm a sap.
Oh.
I'm sorry, I'm just trying to branch out with my humor, but I'll leave you alone after this. Oh, Paul.
Daddy. Yes.
There we go. All right, so let's get to, I gotta play the music, of Greeley Crimes and Old Times. Let's vamp a little bit. Here we go. Wait, why the hell's it playing that? No.
What is that?
I'm losing control here. Yeah. So welcome to a couple of other people. Is it Chuck Wunda? Forgive me if I'm mispronouncing it.
Someone's doing ha ha ha. Chuck Woma?
Okay, welcome to I'm going to call you Chuck
Joan?
for obvious reasons. And by the way, to Tom. Tom, you missed it. We were talking about Bob Dylan before, and someone had mentioned Girl from the North Country. Tom was in the previous Bob Dylan. He was in that musical, The Times They Are Changing, that Twyla Tharp directed on Broadway, well, gosh, a long while ago. Anyway, Greeley Crimes and Old Times. So it's based on these columns in the Greeley Tribune. One of them is about phone calls, actual, real, public record phone calls that come into the police department in Weld County, Colorado. And also things that they found in the newspaper back in 1920, 100 years ago, that through a modern lens are either kind of funny or nostalgic or kooky, and we put them together in this segment called Greeley Crimes and Old Times. For example, police responded. Hello, police?
No, I'm saying catch Ben Katchor.
Oh, yeah. Well, Ben's coming up in about an hour. That's the police responding, ladies and gentlemen, to apartments on 7th Avenue for a woman who had been screaming for the past hour.
Wait a second.
So, Joyce looking for a screechy woman. Now, it doesn't say if she was really yelling or just screaming like that. And then what happened was... So that was at 10:45 in the morning. Mm-hmm. At 6:15 the same day, police again responded to the same apartment complex when a caller reported that the woman was screaming again and smoking a cigarette. How do you scream and smoke a cigarette? Is that... I don't get it. Although I imagine her, whatever she was saying was unfiltered. Holy smokes! Wait, no, I'm doing it! Paul!
Andy joined.
Andy Evan, something. Yeah.
Do you see them too?
Some I see, some I don't. It's very, very weird. But welcome to Andy. And to everyone tuning in to Dave's Gone By, we're doing Greeley Crimes and Old Times. A caller... What? A caller. Excuse me. Here, a caller on 16th Street asked...
Dial the phone.
Oh, sorry. Well, she's already called. Why would I dial? I guess she hung up and I'm dialing back. A caller asked that police check the well-being of a shirtless man with a backpack in combat pants and combat boots who kept rolling around on the ground, doing push-ups and then getting back up.
I think that's called ROTC.
I think it's called Jack LaLoon.
No, that's ROTC. That's what they do.
Well, why do they roll around? I get the push-ups part.
I don't know.
Why do they roll around on the ground?
I guess to get themselves dirty.
Maybe it's Earth Day or something like that. I don't know.
Da-da-da-da-da.
They say it's your Earth Day.
Da-da-da-da-da.
Okay, here we go. Let's do an old one from 1920, 100 years ago.
Ooh, where's my thing? Okay.
This is the newspaper making something of an editorial. This is from 100 years ago. The kindergarten teacher is a cultured woman, sexist already, a cultured woman who exists to minister to the physical and spiritual needs of children. And I'm going to do a tagline to that. In 2020, the kindergarten teacher is a babysitter who hopes she won't get knifed. No. Yeah. And the more things change, sometimes the more they don't remain the same, I'll tell you that. Now, a caller, this is modern times, a caller at a hospital on 16th Street. Hospital. 16th Street Hospital asked that police check the... Caller at a hospital on 16th Street requested police ticket a woman for locking herself in an emergency room bathroom and smoking. That sounds like an emergency to me, actually. I was like, are people so desperate to smoke that... Because they had to put up the signs in airplanes.
Yes.
Oh my God, of all the things people could be doing in a bathroom, you want to go in there, you want to be with your partner and do something naughty, Mile High Club.
Yeah.
Go ahead, you want to do cannabis as an edible?
How can they do that?
Somehow if you got in with it and the dog didn't catch you.
I told
but
you
smoking...
I told you what happened when I was going to Colorado.
What?
For some, I guess I was doing stuff in the house a while ago, and there's this guy, and all of a sudden he's right, of course, in front of me in the screening, and all the airport security police, about 50, not maybe like 6 or 7 guys, grab his suitcase, and they say, "Is this yours?" I'm like, "No," and then the guy's like, "It's mine." He had liquid, edibles, all the cannabis. He's taking it, and they're like, "You can't take it out of Colorado because it's not legal other places."
Yeah. And federally, it's not even legal in Colorado.
"Are you going to arrest me?" And they're like, "No, because it's legal here. But we're going to." They said either we could arrest you or we confiscate your stuff.
And he said, "All right, confiscate."
Yeah, and then they all went in the back and smoked it
and
ate it.
But that's not. Wait, is an airport still part of the state, or is it international, or what do they call it?
It didn't go through the scanner. I think it went through the scanner, but it didn't go in the terminal.
Oh, so he's still on Colorado land.
Yeah, he was still doing the screening.
Because it's like that Tom Hanks movie where he's not particularly a person in any country so long as he's in a certain part of the airport. So I guess I wonder honestly, what do they do with the cannabis? Do they send it back to his house, or if you confiscate it, it's gone? You know. Because didn't we have our kids do that? Kids, when we went to Italy, and we were with students, and they wanted to bring back a bottle of some kind of schnapps or something, and they couldn't bring it on the plane or under the plane.
Oh, the limoncello, the ding dongs. You can't bring. They brought like a gallon bottle to try to get through It exceeded the liquid.
Right? Could they have brought it under the plane? I guess they could have if they had packed it. Or is it because it's an Italian liquid with Italian grapes or something? Oh, but it's just the size of it.
Yeah, it was like gargantuan. I'm like, you can't bring that.
No, but if they brought it as store, under...
Yeah, they could have stowed it.
They could have done that.
And they could have shipped it.
No, but they couldn't have done that with an orange.
But they probably wanted to drink it on the plane, the girls.
No.
Girls, yeah.
Well, no. Anyway, especially since the girls were like 14. No, I'm kidding. We're doing Greeley Crimes at all times, and welcome to Blake, by the way. A caller at an apartment... Oh, yes, where's your apartment? On 25th Street? Oh, wow. The caller says he was woken up by a strong smell of marijuana. Oh, he personally wanted to thank his neighbors.
Oh, that really?
Yeah. He's bringing them over many cups of sugar.
He's bringing them over brownies and Doritos.
That's right. Yeah. Here, I know you don't have the brownies. Let's all make them together. Yeah. Here's an editorial going back 100 years ago in Greeley, Colorado. A man was stopped by a large lake, and he had a gun in one hand, a tax form in the other, and he was going to go jump in the lake. Now, he couldn't figure out the lesser of 3 evils, drowning in the ice-cold lake, shooting himself in the head, or filling out the tax forms. Oh, that 1920s old style. And yet you would figure, back in 1920, the tax form would not have been that complicated. Yeah, you would figure it would have been like 4 questions, 2 of them you could do with an X. I go figure. It was already more than your average person could bear back then. And if you've ever gone bareback, you know how painful that can be. Oh, Paul. And by the way, the actual Paul says, quote, "Does potato do the mashed potato, or is that gallows humor?" So that's not even good enough for an old Paul.
Speak with him.
And by the way, oh my God, Gary logged in. Gary is a playwright. He is also a guy we met way back when. Remember when we flew to Podunk, Pennsylvania for...
Oh, yes! And that it was a theater conference.
For theater, it was a student theater conference, like the International College Theater Festival thing, and he was kind of running that part of it. So welcome to Gary, and hope that you're healthy, and by the way, hope that you're all healthy. Wouldn't it be horrible if all the people who are watching my show right now have corona? By next week, they'll all be gone. It's like, I got... In your last week on Earth, you were watching this. Oh, that's the way the world works, folks. Anyway, this is so appropriate for the week we're in, even though this was 100 years ago in the newspapers. A Weld County farmer had the flu, and it has deranged his brain. He began waving wildly and shouting in his delirium, frightening his neighbors. Officers took him to the work asylum in Pueblo.
Because you know it helps people when you're going cuckoo pants doing work asylum.
But you know what's really interesting? After that, he became the chief financial officer of the University of Northern Colorado. So there you go. There you go. Nothing like that delirium fluums to get you through. Moving to modern times again, police responded. Oh, police, where are they? Wow, the police are slow to respond on this one. Oh, thank goodness. Police are here.
You know why? They smoked some of the edibles. They ate some of the edibles.
Well, they had to go all the way from 25th Street now to 28th Avenue for a man knocking on the door and ringing the doorbell saying...
Wait, let's see.
Yeah.
Oh.
Check it out. He was knocking on the door, ringing the doorbell, bing bong, and telling the people at home, quote,
Yeah.
I'm crazy. I'm insane.
Yes.
Call the law.
Well, that's good.
That's his
you know
quote.
what he was saying?
I'm crazy.
In
I'm
his
insane.
language, it sounded like...
Call the law. And you know,
Oh, welcome Pamela and Wendy.
welcome to Pamela. Wendy, a different Wendy.
No,
Wendy,
not
yeah.
friendly Wendy.
So I'm crazy, I'm insane, call the law. So that's where Rudy Giuliani has been. Anyway, the caller hid in the basement with her family while this was going on. Let's do, oh, by the way, so let's get back to Corona for just a moment, because our elsewhere part of Greeley Crimes and Old Times Day, because we always go...
Okay, you gotta...
Yeah, 11 o'clock.
Okay.
Well, we're good. We're good, yeah. On Greeley Crimes and Old Times, I was dementing in the brain there for a moment. We go outside of Greeley and Weld County for just one story to kind of to open our world a little bit and to move it... Go for it. To another part of the universe, and this is really, really far.
The light bulb is the siren.
Light bulb is siren. Okay, cool. To another part of the world, and we're going to go all the way to South Vietnam for this story of this past week. Yahoo News reported this in South Vietnam, and here is the headline of the story. Quote: Hanoi chief. Sorry. I read it wrong. My head was still in food. Hanoi chef spreads joy with the Corona burger. This is real. This is actually true. You've got to eat it to beat it, says the Yahoo story. That is the philosophy of one Hanoi chef who is attempting to boost morale by selling green coronavirus-themed burgers. Laughing in the face of the global pandemic, Chef Huang Tung, doesn't roll off easily off my tongue, but Huang Tung and his team now spend their days molding dozens of green tea stained burger buns, complete with little crowns made of dough. And these now resemble microscopic images of the coronavirus. Cute, funny, novelty thing. Would you order that? Would you? You couldn't go to the restaurant and eat it anyway, but would you pick up Corona burgers, ladies and gentlemen? Aside from the fact that the beautiful image that we generally see of this, the one that everybody's been using because it's so pretty, is actually red. Am I right? It was that red globe thing with all the little red poppy flowers on it. That was the first image of microscopic corona that I've seen. And then they have all these other pictures that are a different color. I don't know how the hell that's happening. Maybe they stained it with a red dye to make it look cute. Whatever. But if you want this Corona burger, it's in a... I don't have the restaurant name, but you can probably Google it. It'll be kind of a long time since most of the airlines are flying essential things only. But maybe if you pay just the right amount of money, if you're one of those people who could afford to buy the caviar ketchup that Heinz was doing a few months ago, you can get yourself a Corona burger from Vietnam. And, wow, I have nothing funny to say about that. Huh. Wow. And you know, all the pun words are flashing through my mind as we speak. And Potato is literally, he's ready. He's waiting to do an Oh Paul. And I can't do this. Hold on. Just give me a second. Burger, meat. Well, I have a beef with you people. No, that's not good. Oh, wow. This is absolutely awful. Oh, I guess I'm not meat to the no, no, no. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, this is a very sad moment in the history of Dave's Gone By, where I've absolutely been stumped in terms of a pun. I mean, if I were making jokes about a Big Mac, I could do things like let us continue. Now, okay, there you go. There you go. Right now, I'm in a bit of a pickle. Oh, I'm back on it. Oh, Paul. I know. Let's move on with more of Greeley Crimes and Old Times on Dave's Gone By. Cianina Redfeather, that is a name, Cianina Redfeather, Indian princess, and a mezzo-soprano of note, will be entertaining at the Rex Theater this week, and she has many fans in Greeley. And by the way, this is quite amazing and absolutely true. She's kind of a novelty person with that name, Cianina Redfeather. She lived until 1985, and she died at the age of 102.
Cool.
And probably with a temperature of 102 also. But yeah, she was entertaining at the Rex Theater 100 years ago. Let's see, doing more Greeley Crimes and Old Times. Police responded. Oh, where are they?
You took my thing.
Oh no, the police are way late. Here we go.
You're doing your own. I like it.
Police responded to a liquor store. Liquor? I hardly know her. Oh, Paul. On 11th Street, where a caller was rambling about, quote, a bunch of screwballs who made a mess waiting for us screwballs. That's a quote right there. He's complaining about a bunch of screwballs who made a mess for the other screwballs in their group, himself included.
I hope they weren't playing with their jingle hoppers.
They were playing with their screwballs, I'll tell you that. He said he doesn't break the law,
Good.
but someone else might get a $10,000 fine. When asked if anyone else was there, the caller hung up. Get the feeling that caller might have been a little bit, or using the dispensary that's still open during these
Well, at
times.
least he's self-identified as a screwball. Maybe it's a gang. Maybe it's like the Fluff and the Time Bandits. Fluff.
Or who knew? Maybe MS-13 stands for Mighty Screwballs.
Yes.
That's
we
it.
have screwballs.
Yeah.
Yeah, could be. I think that's exactly right. I think that's very true.
Yeah. I'm trying to come up with a screwball pun. Nothing happening because I'm unscrupulous. I know that's not even worth. I know that's not even worth. You don't have to tell me. I know.
Who said that?
I know.
Who said that?
That's my Mike Birbiglia moment right there. I know. Let's see. A caller. Oh, you'll like this one. A caller.
Hit the call.
Hello. This caller at a senior living facility on 27th Avenue reported a male resident in the hallway touching a female resident's breasts.
Not good.
It was determined to be consensual, or just plain sensual, but yes, it was consensual between them. However, the woman was so old. The problem was that in touching her breasts, the man was scraping his knuckles across the floor. I'm sorry. It's terrible. I'm not sorry at all. Ladies and gentlemen, we're doing Greeley Crimes and Old Times. Let's go back to another old-timer. Today, oh my goodness, 100 years ago in Greeley, Colorado, it was the end of Road Dragging Week by the Greeley Chamber of Commerce. What on earth do you think is Road Dragging Week, dear?
I think you take a road and you drag it around.
You know, right? Yeah.
Road?
Road, like the road. Road Dragging Week.
You
know what a drag it is to drive you. No, what?
Is it like Potato Day only with roads?
It turns out, what it really is it's 15 miles of road dragged and smoothed by the chamber members. And by the way, another 15 miles were dragged and lynched by the members back then. So there you go.
Wow.
Oh, and boy, oh boy, could this be more appropriate for our times. For many years, this is in the Greeley newspaper 100 years ago. For many years, the cure for sore throat, congestion, and throat swelling has been what?
Leeches.
Not bad.
Maggots.
No.
Beating.
No.
Road dragging.
Close. And it's a food substance.
Oh, starch.
No, why starch?
Honey.
Yes, darling?
Molasses.
No.
Pot.
I'll give you a hint. No, it's not their favorite food. I'm holding a potato up to my eye.
Mustard?
Apparently, this was the thing. Yellow mustard. Back in the day, for many years, that cure was sore throat, congestion, and throat swelling has been mustard. Because I guess, like if you have hot sauce and mustard and stuff, it opens your passages and stuff. It said that this was a cure from 100 years ago. Just hold some mustard in your throat. Not for long, however, because it can also blister your throat. There's a great cure for you right there. Just take this substance that is going to put you in horrible, torturous pain. But before it starts doing that, hold it there. And problem is, I mean, at what point, how do you get the mustard out of your thing? Do you swallow it? Or you just go, I don't know.
I think you must spit it up.
Yeah. Because I know, like, when our friend Tanya, way back when, she made up this concoction, nothing mustardy about it. When you have a phlegm and sick and cold, it was everything but. It was honey and milk, which you figure would not bring up phlegm, cause more, but it worked. It was milk and buttermilk or butter, and do you remember what else was in that thing? Was there
crack.
Hot sauce?
Crack.
There was crack. It was rimmed kind of like a margarita. little bits of crack around the rim of the glass. Let's see. Let's do one more Greeley Crime.
You know, David, it's 10:30.
We'll move on with the rest of the show. I'll do our today-yesterday
How
quiz.
come my battery was full, now it's half?
Well, you're not plugged in. Oh, dear.
Yeah, but how come it went to half already?
I don't know. You can bring in, there's a plug right there if you want to plug in the thing. Plus, you're using the Facebook. You're probably using a lot of apps on your thing. Okay, last, oh my God.
Roland joined, Roland Lewis.
Welcome to Roland and Wayne and Gary. My wife believes that she has not a sixth sense, but a certain level of prophecy. A certain level of kind of getting a sense of knowing
I'm a crone.
before the hand.
I'm a crone.
Well, if you call yourself an old crone, that's not going to mean it. What do you mean by that?
The crones are powerful figures.
How are crones powerful figures?
They have proper foresight.
They have foresight. I used to have a foreskin, and then the rabbi took that. Oh, Paul. But, so here's the deal. Here's the thing. Joyce, what did you just mention?
What?
Well, in the last thing that we were talking about.
A lot of stuff.
No, but when we were talking about the beverage and the thing that people use, the mustard that people put in their throats to go, what did you suggest?
Cork crack.
Here is an item from a week or two ago in Greeley, Colorado, on Greeley Crimes and Old Times. A caller, not at 8th and 8th, but at 7th and 7th. And if you've ever had a 7 and 7, you know how tasty they can be. She said she opened the storage unit after customers complained of a bad smell. What did she find in there? Take a wild guess, babe.
Crack.
A crack pipe. A crack pipe and, here's my favorite, human waste.
Ew.
In the storage unit. Why would there be, who would go into a storage place,
Maybe somebody was living there.
smoke crack and poop, and do it in the same...
Maybe that's what happens when you smoke crack. Maybe you poop.
Maybe. So this is where they stored both a crack pipe and human waste in the storage unit over on 7th and 7th. And you know what? Oddly enough, Brandy and Jarrett still big on it. Who knew?
Oh, that's funny.
Thank you very much. That's a little bit of comedy right there on Dave's Gone By, where it is 10:30 in the morning Eastern Time in the neighborhood with me, Dave Lefkowitz, my darling and adorable wife, Joyce. And we say farewell for this week for Greeley Crimes and Old Times.
I'm sure that you'll agree with me that Greeley was no fool.
What he is getting at is that Mr. Greeley was no fool.
Yippee-yi, yippee-yi, yippee-yi-yi-yi, yippee-yi, yippee-yi.
crimes and old times every week on the Dave's Gone By Facebook, podcast, program, of the stream. Now, I want to mention, we were talking before about essential services and things that have to stay open, even though we wish we could close our eyes and our mouths and any other orifice where virus can get in. But aside from bakeries and pot dispensaries and supermarkets that need to stay open at this time, it was really heartening for me to hear that a place that is open for essential services, and during this time, is our sponsor, Hewlett Minuteman Press, the copy kings of Broadway. Since the mid-1970s, the Torong family has owned and operated this franchise of Minuteman in the heart of Hewlett, Long Island. And they're great for everything from, black and white single-sided copies, double-sided copies, color copies, copies on special paper, very long paper. They'll also do flyers and banners and balloons. They're as much as anything now, they're known for doing silk screening and putting your logo on items of clothing, sporting equipment, stationary stuff, or stuff that moves around. They also are known. Was that an old Paul? Yeah, it was an old. I'm sorry. Oh, Paul. They're also known for wedding invitations and holiday cards. I mean, people are going to be stuck at home during Passover, during Easter. I would say go send them holiday cards, but that's really not an essential service. But under regular circumstances, people still like getting an old-fashioned card in the mail, a wedding invitation that isn't by email. Hewlett Minuteman Press can do that. There's going to be, 20% unemployment soon? Everybody's going to need business cards. Go to Hewlett Minuteman Press for those. Now, right now, they could use the business, so call them first and let them know, hey, I want this job done. Can you do it? Or if so, when can you do it? Is this something that can wait until April or May? Or, hey, do you have I know you're working with only partial staff right now to save money and to keep yourselves going. Maybe if I pay you now, can you do the job in a week or 2 or 3? Or are you getting so little work right now that you have and you're welcome something to do for me? Check it out. Give them a call. 516-569-5577. Area code 516-569-5577. And if you tell them Dave sent you, you get 10% off any job, big or small, whether it's a single-sided copy, now I guess would be about 10 cents and you get a penny off, or hundreds and hundreds of dollars worth of work. Hewlett Minuteman Press can do that for you. Hewlett Minuteman Press, they are the copy kings. Wow. Well, I do feel like king of the world. I don't have my crown today.
Do you want it?
But I do have my hat. I got my special kingly hat, ladies and gentlemen, as we continue with more of the Dave's Gone By Facebook, podcast, programmio of the stream here on the Dave's Gone By program on this Saturday, March 28th, 2020. I'm here with my darling and adorable wife, Joyce. We will be joined by both Rabbi Saul Solomon and drawer and illustrator extraordinaire Ben Katchor, going to be coming up in about half an hour from now, talking to us on Dave's Gone By. So it's a really special, wonderful show. More than enough reason to keep hanging with. I mean, you don't really have any other reasons to do anything else, so keep hanging with us on this Saturday for this edition of Dave's Gone By with me, Dave Lefkowitz. This is our 739th episode. We're calling it Catch Me If You Can. Catch spelled with a K. Get it? For our guest, Ben Katchor, coming up. But before then, I know Cynthia and Jeff are tuned in, as are Roland and Wayne and Gary and Paul and Blake and Tony and who else? Andy and Cynthia, Jeff, Stephanie, Philip, Natasha, Kurt, and Suzanne, bunches of people, Jolinda and David, and folks who Joyce can see on her computer.
Roland, Krista, Wendy, Pamela.
So great to see all of you. Stay tuned and be with us right now and be with us interactively, because not only do you get to do the old Paul thing when we do a bad pun here, but we're going to play our today-yesterday trivia game, which goes something like this.
And what can you say that would make them defensive?
And it was funny, we were actually watching a documentary that involved the Beach Boys yesterday, so there they are. Well, I'm sorry, what about question mark?
Patrick just joined. You don't have your question mark.
Oh, you're right, I need that.
You hold that.
I need to hold up this very, very special graphic that cost us thousands of dollars to make, ladies and gentlemen. Oh no, did I
got
lose
it
it?
from Trader Joe's, David.
Don't tell them. I want them to think the show has a budget. Look at this, huh?
Whoa. I remember they said hold it upside down in Spanish.
This was... ¿Qué? Bienvenidos a el David Gan el Bayo. Sí. 6 years of high school and junior high school Spanish, this is all I know. But anyway, hola, ¿qué tal? Me llamo David y ahora estamos a hacer un quiz. Okay, we're doing our today-yesterday quiz. This was designed for us by the combined staffs of both the Jimmy Fallon show and Kimmel.
Really?
They had nothing else to do.
Wow.
And so they spent thousands of man-hours and dollars to create our logo for when we ask a question on our today-yesterday quiz, and we see if you can answer it. No fair wikiing, no fair Googling. Cynthia, Jeff, are you there? Please let us know. If you're not, you can just play against yourselves, but feel free, whoever you are, tuning in, watching, when I ask a question, be the first to type in the answer right here on the, so everybody can see it, so I can see it, and you would be the person to beat with the correct answer for this trivia quiz. It's called Today, Yesterday, and it has to do with things that happened today in history on March, because of course it is March 28th, 2020, and now there have been thousands and thousands of March 28ths before this one. So, oops, I dropped my question mark.
You want it?
I'm gonna get it. Oh no, oh my legs.
Or don't burn yourself.
Don't get old, ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you. Oh my God. Ugh. Here we go, I found it. Oh, we're back to Spanish again.
Oh, wow.
Bienvenidos otra vez. Y vamos a pensar el quiz. Sí, el quiz. The quiz, ladies and gentlemen. Today, yesterday, we're playing it against Cynthia and Jeff, who usually chime in first with the answer, but maybe you. Yes, you can be with the answer. Oh, and Kenneth, from where I used to work. Ken, I hope you tuned in 2 weeks ago when we had Robert Viagas as a guest on the program. We had a fantastic time talking about old times there. But anyway, today, yesterday, our quiz on Dave's Gone By. Are you ready? I know you are. Let's begin in 1881.
Oh my God.
Today, yesterday. James Anthony Bailey struck up a lucrative partnership with another entrepreneur doing the same kind of thing. In fact, thanks to Mr. Bailey, they achieved jumbo-sized success. Name his fellow businessman.
That's an easy one.
Is it? Okay. So, that is the question. That is the first question. Be the first one. Get right on it. Make believe this is Jeopardy and you're going for the buzzer. On this date, March 28, 1881, James Anthony Bailey struck up a lucrative partnership with another entrepreneur doing the same kind of thing. In fact, their business achieved, well, essentially jumbo-sized success. Name his fellow businessman. And while you're thinking, we have our beautiful graphic. So Cynthia and Jeff, you're basically correct, but I did ask for the name of the guy. There you go. Okay, you got it.
P.T. Barnum.
Very good. Yes, dear. Very good. Oh, I didn't even have our thinking music. But well done. Okay, we started, I guess, with an overly easy one. Let's get to... So Cynthia and Jeff got there first. If anybody wants to try to beat them to the buzzer on our quiz, you can try and do that too. So I do have... I forgot that I have our musical thing. The staff over at the McNeil Era Report, because they've been out of work for a long, long time, they did this up for us too. Here we go. 1935, March 28th. It has been called...
David, your parents joined and so did Karen from the library.
Oh, how lovely. Hi, Mom and Dad, who are just over 6 feet away from us. They never watch the show. They're so bored. My mom and dad are tuning into my show today.
Maybe they want to see that they're interested in the food in the book.
Their life is so boring and horrible right now that they've got nothing else to do. They're not watching CNN. They're actually tuning in to watch me. Oh my God.
Harold Seltzer joined Ollie.
Welcome to Carol, and welcome to Harold Seltzer. Harold Seltzer. Well, I guess this show is now ready to pop. Oh, Paul. I'm just bubbling over with jokes. Oh, Paul. All right. Oh, Jeffrey's here. So Jeffrey can play against his wife, Cynthia. And Kenneth, thanks, Ken, for playing along. We got another one for 1935. It has been called, quote, the greatest propaganda film in history.
Oh, my God.
Directed by Leni Riefenstahl, this tribute to Nazi... Directed by Leni Riefenstahl,
Oh, okay.
this tribute to Nazi iconography debuted in Berlin today. Name it.
First
Movie fans here.
Manhattan, then we take
And no, it's not the first Ghostbusters. So what is the...
Was it that Taylor Swift mockumentary?
No, that's not mine. That's a documentary, I think. Yeah. No, it's not the Taylor Swift documentary. Right, not. And so go think back on this one. It isn't the Great Train Robbery. In 1935, on this date, in a Berlin movie theater, Leni Riefenstahl debuted what has been called the greatest propaganda film in history.
That's a high name to live up to. No?
And it's all about the Nazis. So Cynthia and Jeff have no idea on this one. Does anybody else? Ken, you may know this one. Anybody else want to take a stab on answering this question? I'll give it another couple of seconds because I know there's a delay between what I'm doing here and what you're watching. By the way, I think we lost a viewer, and that was my parents. So they tuned in. They're like, "Oh, it's our son." They're watching somebody else's podcast
Paul
now.
was soap on the nose.
Oh my God!
What? Who got it?
We have an answer. Hon, do you want to try before you look at Ken's answer?
Mm-mm.
The answer, Kenneth got it absolutely right. Kenneth was my co-worker back at Playbill. Yeah.
Ken, I remember Ken.
Well done, Ken. The name of the movie was Triumph of the Will. And it basically put the Nazis and the Aryan physique into, that was more of her next film, but it showed Nazi rallies and Hitler speaking in a way that made it visually beautiful and visually incredibly powerful.
I think it was the Taylor Swift documentary, I'm sure.
You sure it was the Taylor Swift? Oh, not one of those Madonna documentaries?
Wasn't it Shaun the Sheep?
I'm Shaun the Sheep.
I have lots of friends and some who do not believe.
And by the way, Riefenstahl would, the next year, she would go on to also do another film of extraordinary visual iconography called The Olympiad, all about the Olympics of that year. And she was saying, she worked with Hitler on other movie projects, and yet she says she had no idea about the Holocaust and about dead Jews and such, and said that for the whole rest of her life, which was quite long, and she lived quite well. Why we didn't put a bullet in her head, I don't know, but anyway.
Well, there's that new film with De Niro or Pacino about Nazi hunters, right?
Oh, yeah.
David, I'm going to go make tea. Would you like anything? Do you need more
I would
coffee?
love another Java.
Yes, okay. Tell the watch party
Thank
people
you.
I got to take a break, and I got to come back in like 5-10 minutes.
I need a splint on this foot
Why?
because of Java, because I Krakatoa. Oh, Paul, I know, Potato. I'm not proud. If I were proud, would I be doing this? Would I be doing anything? Anyway, well done, Ken. And if you're playing along, keep score, because I can't do that for you. We're on to our next question in our Today Yesterday quiz. 1939 is the year, and now this is not a sports question. Cynthia's giving me an old Paul for that one too. I don't blame you. This is not a sports question. Today Yesterday, the Nationalists beat the Republicans to win the Battle of Madrid, signaling the end of the Spanish Civil War and the rise of this leader who would stay in power until his death in 1975. Can you name this leader? Bum, ba-dum, ba-dum, bum, bum. Let me get the question mark. Or actually, since we're talking about Spanish Civil War, let's use esta pregunta. Sí. ¿Quién es? Let me see if I can do part of this question in Spanish. Hoy, ayer, y no es de deportes, nacionalistas ganan a repúblicos para ganar el Batalla de Madrid. El final del la guerra civil de España y well, I'll give it away with this, este generalísimo ganar, and he would stay in power until his death in 1975, and we got it right. Well done, Cynthia and Jeff. And she says, this is true, Generalissimo Francisco Franco, who, at last I looked, because I literally, I'm one of those people who checks the obituaries every day to see what famous people died, and Generalissimo Francisco Franco is still dead. That is actually the case. And, okay, well done, Cynthia and Jeff. Ken, Ken is gonna go, he's gonna go wash his hands. I know that's gonna take a long time these days, but thanks for tuning in, Ken. Hope you can come back, and hope you can stay with us, because in about 15 minutes we're gonna have Ben Katchor with us, talking to Rabbi Solomon. Moving on to more of Greeley Crimes and Old Time, of the Today Yesterday quiz. Here we go. A theater question, because you know I love those. The Tony Awards weren't always in June. So on March 28th, 1948, that was when the second annual Tony Awards were held at the Waldorf Astoria Hotel, or ballroom, I guess. There were no nominees for Best Play, just a winner. It was a comedy drama about the World War II Navy, starring Henry Fonda and David Wayne. Name the Tony-winning play. Here's our question mark, and since this is about the Navy, I'll read it again. So on this date, March 28, 1948, the second annual Tony Awards were held, and the winner of Best Play was a comedy drama about life in the U.S. Navy during World War II. David Wayne and Henry Fonda starred in it, and can you name it? And it was made into a movie, but not immediately. Okay, we have an answer from Cynthia and Jeff. Do we have any answers from anyone else? I'm going to give it a countdown. Anybody? By the way, it doesn't just have to be Cynthia and Jeff. I don't see my cousin Mark on today, so let's give it a... Well, no, I'm sorry, Cynthia and Jeff. Not On the Town, which was a musical, but yes, it was about the Navy during wartime, so good on that. But no, Henry Fonda was the star of this play called Mr. Roberts. Remember that? They made Mr. Roberts as a play in 1948. Fonda won the Tony Award for playing the... I'm confusing it with Captain Queen, a very different play, but well, Mr. Roberts. When they made the movie, David Wayne didn't co-star. It was Jack Lemmon playing Ensign Pulver when they made Mr. Roberts many years later. It was 1955 before they actually made the film of this Tony-winning show. Anyway, moving on, and yes, it's another theater question, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, joy! Oh, I think my wife made me coffee and ice cream? What is that?
Well, I thought when you do dairy restaurant, what?
Oh, yes, how perfect.
Be careful, it makes sense.
Thank you.
I don't know if I put enough sugar, I couldn't judge.
Oh, this is perfect.
Okay,
oh, as my mother would say, it's savan de kishkes. It makes your guts warm. And doesn't that sound appetizing? Well, we're doing our Today-Yesterday quiz. Today, March 28th, 2020. We now roll it back to March 28th, 1953. At the 7th Annual Tony Awards, Arthur Miller would win Best Play for a drama that rebuked the communist witch hunts by looking at the actual witch hunts of 1692. Name the play. So, Arthur Miller was commenting in his play, set during the witch trials, all about what was going on in his time in the 1950s of the McCarthy, communist witch hunts. What was the name of this Tony-winning play in 1953? So, wait a moment or two for that. Oh, ooh, I'm afraid to knock that over. Yeah, that's fine. Thank you very, very much. Okay. Oh, that's my wife stirring up my egg cream. Okay, we'll take a comment on this. Anybody?
Oh, wow, a lot of people joined.
Oh, good. Who is joining?
Robert and Rick.
Robert and Rick.
And then other people.
Cool.
I can't see everybody.
Okay, I'm going to need an answer from somebody before. Do you want to try this one? They made Salem Witch Trial, but what was the name of the play that Arthur Miller wrote set during the Salem Witch Trials?
Oh, The Crucible.
Yeah, my missus got it. That is correct. That is the right answer. You did.
Oh, I'm putting a picture of a dancing milk container.
Oh, yay. For the dairy restaurant, because coming up in a little bit more than 5 minutes, we
need to get the
Zoom going. Yeah, so I got a couple more questions. Okay. I'm going to get through them pretty quick. 1963 we go to. Oh, there's some Yoda-ish language right there. 1963, faced with bankruptcy, Harry Wismer sold his football team to a consortium of 5 new owners, among them Leon Hess and Sonny Werblin. They renamed the team the Jets. What had they been called before?
Losers.
No, that's after.
Oh,
and during, and before.
Loser?
So...
One-hit wonder?
Here's the question. Well, they are, technically, yeah, one-hit wonder. What was the team? So Harry Wismer owned them, and he didn't have a lot of luck with them. He sold them to 5 guys, not named Mo. They ended up being called the Jets. What were they called before? Woo! We got an answer quick on that one. Doot. Honey, you want to take a stab?
No, I don't know.
They were called, as Cynthia and Jeff came through with, the New York Titans. They were the Titans. So, all right, moving on to our next question. 1990 is the year. Earlier, if you were paying attention, we mentioned Leni Riefenstahl and her film Olympiad about the 1936 Olympics. The star of that film was Adolf Hitler. Co-starring were the Aryan German athletes, but their thunder was stolen by this African-American runner who won 4 gold medals and was on this date in 1990 awarded a posthumous Congressional Medal of Honor by George H.W. Bush. Can you name him? So on this date, March 28, 1990, this athlete who performed so spectacularly that even though Olympiad was a propaganda film for the Nazi master race and how much better German-bred athletes were better than anybody else, and certainly any other race, this guy, Leni Riefenstahl, couldn't ignore him. She could not put him in the film. And there's this whole section in the film where, rather famously, Hitler's looking on and he's like, because his athletes are being beaten by this guy, and Cynthia and Jeff do have it correct. The answer is Jesse Owens. Jesse Owens.
Do this.
And if you want to feel even more depressed about about life than even our corona situation, go read the wiki article or any life story of Jesse Owens.
Why?
And see what happened to him, of what
happened?
I mean, the man won 4 gold medals in the 1936 Olympics.
That's incredible.
The President of the United States didn't invite him back to shake hands. He couldn't get a job.
Whoa.
He ended up physically racing horses, like a kind of a, like a Mighty Atom type of exploiting himself to some level just to make a living. And he worked in a gas station. He worked in this guy
so weird.
Up until many, many later years, when finally he was made kind of an ambassador and respected. But it took about 30 years of him just, trying to scrape together a living.
That's crazy, huh?
Yeah, that's the. I mean, it also didn't help that the Olympics were, after 1936, they stopped for 8 years. So, but there was even a thing where he couldn't compete competitively because he wanted to do professional gigs, and you have to be an amateur. It was just like a whole.
So he was
what a
really,
life!
He was in a catch-22.
Yeah. Anyway, let's do our 2 more questions before we get to our guest. Time for 2009, March 28th. How's this for nostalgia? A week or 2 after warnings came up from Mexico, a patient in San Diego complained of fever, coughs, and other symptoms. 2 weeks later, the Center for Disease Control proclaimed a pandemic of what? Okay, so this question goes back to 2009, if you're feeling nostalgic. A week or 2 after reports started coming up out of Mexico, somebody in San Diego came down with fever and cough and other symptoms. 2 weeks later, we already had a pandemic on our hands of what?
Giggle flu.
The giggle flu. Was it the giggle flu?
No.
Waiting for Cynthia and Jeff on this one. Do your best.
How did they know so much? Did they play game shows? Were they ever contestants?
I don't know. Well, we have an answer from them. And Cynthia and Jeff? No. No. The answer that they gave is SARS. But SARS is much more recent. That was just from a couple of years ago in China. No, back in 2009, we were talking about, speaking of Shaun the Sheep, it was the swine flu, which globally killed only 18,000 people. So already, this thing's got it beat. And swine flu, as scared as everybody was about it, it turned out to be about as deadly as your regular common garden variety annual seasonal flu. But anyway, yeah, swine flu was the pandemic in 2009. And our last question, as we come close to 11 o'clock.
Is it Shaun the Sheep?
Speaking of China, it's not Shaun the Sheep. In Beijing, Chinese leader Xi Jinping had a guest, a foreign dignitary who had never set foot outside of his home country since rising to power on the death of his father in 2011.
Oh, God.
Name the man and his homeland. So this is just 2 years ago. Beijing, China.
2011?
2018.
Oh, I heard 11.
Yeah, well, the Chinese leader had a guest. This guest had not left the country that he is in power in since 2011.
I believe it was a ghost. Was it a ghost friend?
No.
No. Who was it? Was it me?
And this guy took over power of the country when his dad died.
Is it David Lefkowitz?
And his grandpa was in power, as there's a hint. It's
Oh.
not me. Who is it? Who are we talking about? Cynthia and Jeff were with,
Oh my God, the thing froze with you doing your nose thing like that. Oh my God.
That's kind of horrible.
That's interesting.
So, I want to kind of get, I don't know what to play in between while we're getting Rabbi Saul Solomon in the room. This is...
Why don't you get up the thing first, David?
Well, I want to do all this
he's
while there's
probably
something
trying to join, and he's going to
Yeah.
not be able to join.
Okay, well, if he's watching the train, he knows, but here,
Yeah, but
I'll get this up. That's what she said. Here it is. Let's move on. Let's talk. And I know there shouldn't be anything to talk about the theater, but there is stuff to talk about the American theater and about Broadway. Not all of it good news, unfortunately. I mean, not obviously a lot of bad news going around, but still, let's hear about what's been going on in the world of New York commercial theater for just a little bit, because I do love it. And it still takes our minds off, kind of, what's been going on. We go inside Broadway. Inside Broadway, a look at theater on and off Broadway and beyond. Brought to you by Total Theater and Performing Arts Insider. Curtain going up. Yes, inside Broadway we go, ladies and gentlemen, and we do this every week here on Dave's Gone By because look at me, I'm all flushed, I'm red, I'm angry, it's like, we're going to go inside Broadway for news of the theater, news of the Rialto, here on Dave's Gone By. So, gee, what is the big story in the news this week? Oh yeah, coronavirus. Right, all Broadway shows, and this is the amazing thing, that the League of American Theaters and Producers and the American Theater Wing still have not revised or done anything about this idea that Broadway is somehow going to reopen on April 13th. You know, that the thing's going to be, the curve will go down, and then somehow everybody's going to want to crowd back into a 1,200, 1,400. Oh, hello! Hold on. We're going to table inside Broadway for a minute.
Click on the shared view. Go on the bottom.
Yeah, share view.
Right
Hold
there.
on. Gallery view.
Yeah.
Hit that.
Oh, sorry.
Oh my God! Look who's here.
Oh, tell Ben 1 second.
Yeah, Ben. We actually have Ben Katchor in the neighborhood. I was going to curse you out. Oh, now
Wait, I can't hear you.
you can't hear me. Do you have my audio?
Now I hear you.
Yay! Now you hear me, and I
Yes.
hear you, and we see you. We don't see you on Facebook. I need to explain this before Rabbi Saul comes on. Why? What's that for?
You can talk into this.
Oh, okay. Maybe you'll hear me better. Oh, do you think my Facebook people will hear me if I do that? No. Yeah, but what we're going to do, just give me a moment, Ben, because, you're not going to be talking to me. You're going to be talking to the great, the estimable, the venerable Rabbi Saul Solomon. So Ben Katchor is with us in the neighborhood, so just hold on 1 second. Oh, look who's here. Shalom, my friends. Shalom, my enemies. Welcome everyone to those who are tuning into the Dave's Gone By. We apologize for the delay. I had to fix my egg cream, which is so important here because this goes with the new book by the person that we have in the neighborhood with us today. A dairy delicious. No, don't feel too high because the schmutz will boil over. Hold on. Oh, that's good. Oh, I feel that in my prostate. Oh, it's so good, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, we have with us in the neighborhood, and we're very excited about this. One of the reasons that we had technical difficulties is for the first time, we're actually conducting this interview on Zoom. Now, I can see Ben Katchor. You cannot see Ben Katchor, ladies and gentlemen, but when we tape this and we show this in the archives, you'll actually see both of us. So we're going to see how this works. And now the first question is, Ben, where I'm looking at you, and shalom, by the way, to you. Ben. Shalom, welcome.
You could do a virtual background.
Where are you?
Shalom Aleichem.
It says stop video.
Where am I?
This one?
Yeah.
Froze for a second.
Virtual background.
Oh, I see. Now I'm not gonna deal. I'm fine with where I am right now. So Ben, I'm so sorry. Are you in a school? We have delay.
No, that's a virtual background. That's where I do my weekly comic symposium from the new school. But it's just an imaginary background. Should I turn it off?
No, leave it. It's beautiful. It's great. It's a lovely visual compliment. I thought you were in an abandoned school where you teach because nobody can be.
Oh, yeah, that's what it looks like, but I'm not. I'm up in the country, actually, about 2.5 hours from New York. So I went up here for the weekend, and we never went back. Because,
I can imagine. It's. How are you? First of all, are you healthy? Is your family healthy? Or everything?
Everybody's okay.
Oh, we all have it.
Everybody's okay.
Sorry?
Everybody's okay.
This is good. So let me ask you, since you do have the school behind you, what do you teach young cartoonists?
I teach in the illustration program at Parsons, the new school. And the illustration program deals with traditional editorial illustration, with comics, with animation, with toy design, things like that. Picture books,
Sorry, what do you bring to the table? In other words, as opposed to other.
I bring the ability to write and draw, to do both. The full spectrum of expression, not just one or the other. but we expect our students to be authors of their own work. So, how much text you use is up to you. Whether like most comic strips use a combination of text and image.
Now, is it still okay to call what you do comic books?
Yes,
strips.
comic. No, they're not. Comic books are those floppy pamphlets. No, comics in America, that's the word. Every country has its own name for this form. So in some countries, it's called strip drawing. I mean, in English, the translation. In other countries, it would be called picture stories. In America, it's called comics. So that works.
But where do you stand on what everybody has been, for 10 years, it's been the thing to read graphic novels, right? Which is,
well,
but yeah.
That's a kind of long form comic that's a novel. It should be fiction. Most of my work is short form. It's weekly newspapers or monthly things. And so, publishers don't know what to do with short form work, with poetry and short comics or short stories. So they prefer book length works. It's just that's something they were used to selling. And so also in America, comics have a very bad cultural reputation historically, not anymore, I don't think. But at one time, if you went to a publisher and said, I'd like to do this comic, they'd laugh at you. They'd say, we don't publish comics. That's, there are comic book companies. It's for children, teenagers. So if you wanted to aim a comic strip at an adult audience, you might call it a graphic novel or a picture story or something.
Well, where do you see?
That's just
I'm sorry, we just got a notice that our internet connection is unstable. No more unstable than I am, I'll tell you that. But let me ask you a question here. How do you, let's say, was Art Spiegelman a game changer of the form when he did Mouse?
Yeah, it was. I think it was the book that got.
Oh boy! Hold on, we're sort of breaking up here, gentlemen. Don't go away.
Critical amount of writing.
God, I'm sorry, Ben. I know you were talking.
I know you're a religious man, and I know you start praying to God right away.
Every time I do,
he won't help you with the internet. That's probably Verizon. You should pray to Verizon or whoever you use.
Oh, please. It's what is it, Comcast here or? Anyway, I'm so sorry. I didn't get the answer because you were just digitally breaking up vocally. Like he was davening. It sounded like you were a robot davening, basically. So what I was hearing here. So please answer the question again about Spiegelman, and then also maybe your thoughts about Alison Bechdel and people like that.
Well, Spiegel, Mouse, when it came out in book form, it appeared in small installments in Raw magazine. But when it came out in book form, and it was reviewed as a serious piece of autobiographical, or I don't know what they call it, but it got enough serious critical attention that people said, well, okay, it's possible to do a serious work in this form. That it doesn't have to be aimed at children or sort of subliterates. And, once there's this one model that seems to get that kind of critical attention, it sets itself up as that's how you do serious comics. And since then, a lot of books, a lot of comics, people look at them without this prejudice against the form. But, Will Eisner's A Testament with God. What is it? Yeah, that's what it's called. That came out about 10 years earlier and went nowhere. It just didn't get that kind of cultural positioning. So, has to do with the work and the timing. But, you know, in other parts of the world, in France, comics have always been taken pretty seriously. So I think it's an American publishing and intellectual prejudice about comics. So.
Now, one of the first things you did that started your career off is and I love this, that you drew your strip for the Daily Forward. I imagine it was not the Yiddish one, it was the English Daily Forward.
Yeah,
right?
It started in other weekly papers. It started in the New York Press, and then it was syndicated. It ended up for a period in the English language Forward. Wait, it did. No, you know, I did a strip for them while I was doing the Knippel strip.
Did you take all your?
Started a thing called the Jew of New York. They didn't think Julius Knippel was specifically Jewish enough. It didn't have enough Jewish content. And they said, if you can come up with a more specifically Jewish strip, we might look at it. And I said, okay, I'll do a strip called The Jew of New York. It sounded like it couldn't be more specifically Jewish themed. And they bought it, and it ran for a year.
Well, you were born in Brooklyn.
Expanded into a book form. So, but it doesn't have that much to do with Jews. It has to do with, it's sort of the starting point of the book was the plan of a guy named Mordechai Noah to found a Jewish state up on Grand Island in the Niagara River, a failed kind of proto-Zionist plan. And it takes off from there. It has a lot more to do with early American theater and other subjects, 1830s America.
But can I ask even?
But anyway, the title was right.
So, but here's the deal. Whether it's the Jew of New York or what you were doing for the Forward, where they specifically asked for Jewish material, or even in the work that you're doing now, certainly the dairy restaurant is about Fleischik and Milchik and parva things. So how does Judaism, has it informed your work throughout, whether specifically or more indirectly?
Well, I mean, I was born into a family where my father, he was born in Warsaw in a Yiddish-speaking world, and came to America in the 1920s. So, and my mother was just born in America. Her parents were also Yiddish-speaking Jews from Kiev. So I grew up in this kind of first generation Jewish world in New York as it was relocated to New York. It became the biggest Jewish city in the world. And so there's that. And then I have an interest in history, and one part of that history is history of Jews, but Jews lived in a larger world. And if you look at the dairy restaurant book, until you get to about page 200, which starts dealing with the New York dairy restaurant, it's about world culture and how a lot of these impulses were across all cultures. And then Jews had a particular take on it because of dietary law and other reasons. But so yeah, part of my Judaism is pure historical interest. I'm not an observant Jew like you. I don't want to, I don't have payas. I don't wear a yarmulke.
And don't forget these things. Yeah, that's
right. Tzitzis, I don't, right. But,
Yeah.
I'll
look at there if you want. This is for you. Well, I can put this, make believe this is going on.
Is that?
There you go. So, all right, you're not observant here. But
do you market those yarmulkes? Do you have a Saul Solomon line of
If
of
people pay for them,
rabbinical
if you
flair.
use some of your MacArthur,
Well,
buy a bunch. I'll make them. Let me tell you. I've even got these ready for you if you want. Usually I put these on older women to make them look like young girls for horrible, nefarious purposes. We'll talk about that later. We're talking with Ben Katchor, and of course the ultimate Jewish look right here, ladies and gentlemen. But talking with Ben,
I did an exhibition at the Jewish Museum about those eyeglasses. The whole idea, I called it the myopic voluptuary.
myopic,
Because there was a very particular character type that was short-sighted and had a mustache in the mid-19th century when most men had beards still. They were clean-shaven but had a mustache, and they were either short-sighted or they needed eyeglasses. I called them mainly, I thought they were myopic. But it became a character type that I think those glasses were based on. I think it predates Groucho Marx. That was my
that's
thesis.
what I'm saying. In other words, Groucho looked at that kind of type, and so that's something I could turn into me.
And I found about 100. I built this little diorama for the Jewish Museum with hundreds of these types of men from the mid-19th century. I can't remember who they all were, but it was a certain type.
Sorry, that's terrible of me.
Diorama,
not diarrhea. I know.
Yeah.
I populate it with something that isn't necessarily Jews. But now let me ask you. When I think of your work, it was kind of funny because I was going through the interwebs, as it were, the other day and looking at your work, and I think of your work in either sepia color or kind of black and white with sort of a sepia tint, and it feels weird sometimes when I see your strips in color. I don't know why that is. Feel more comfortable.
Well, I did a strip for about 13 years in color.
Yeah.
But the dairy restaurant is tones of gray. Different strips. Sometimes it's two colors, yellow, like a warm and a cool color. Depends on the story. But the early strips were in newspapers that didn't have the capacity to print color.
Well, of course.
So, what is your take on this whole idea that Godard, the filmmaker Godard, put out that Jews are responsible for the death of cinema? Do you know this crazy thing as a rabbi? Did that ever come up?
Jean-Luc Godard has been an anti-Zionist for many, many years. He's very pro-Palestinian. Israel has been for a long time. I have not heard that he thinks Jews are. It's funny, like certain filmmakers, if they're Jewish and they don't even think about it. The older they get, the more Jewish they get. Like Steven Spielberg didn't make. What was that Holocaust movie then? Schindler's List. That wasn't his second film. You know, he was making Jaws and Sugarland Express, and then when he got older, he remembered, hey, I'm Jewish. I think I'll make a Jew movie. And as they get older,
I think the same with.
But Jew haters, it's the other way around. You know, Mel Gibson, and he's going to get drunk again, and he's going to say shit about Jews that goes so far beyond. We have a question from the gallery here. We found this image.
Okay.
Can you explain what's going on in there? Can you see it?
It's I'll open the book. I know what that picture is. Wait, hold on.
It's of a naked person, by the way, for those watching.
That's in the Garden of Eden. It's a scene in the Garden of Eden.
Yeah.
Where
Wait, hold on, he's still looking.
Where they're looking at these figs that are growing there. That's Adam looking at the trees and the date palms in the Garden of Eden. They weren't apples, that's like a westernized version. They were dates.
I never thought of Adam as being kind of hairy and stocky.
Yeah.
He was kind of clean.
I don't know. That's how I drew him. He probably was a much more dark-skinned person, but I don't know. Whatever. That's how I drew him. Kind of somewhat.
That's disturbing.
It's halfway less westernized than most images of the Adam.
But since you're the guest, since you
But,
are the guest, let me throw that question back on you. What do you think Jean-Luc Godard means when he blames Jews for killing?
oh, he said in the quote is that that Moses brought down the 10 Commandments as text, he saw it as a vision, and he brought it down to the earth as a written text, and that set this text-centric idea in Western culture. But I don't know. I don't think that's true. In Deuteronomy, it says these tablets were written by the hand of God. They weren't written by Moses, and they were always. It was a voice that was then transcribed into text. There was no image involved. So I don't know.
The
I don't
tablets
know where.
are written, they just say Tylenol on them. But no, I mean, I'm sorry, that's a bad joke right there.
What is that?
This is the Jewish scripture, ladies and gentlemen. Let me hold that up to the way. So, it's only in English, though.
Okay.
It's a visual cue, ladies and gentlemen.
It's a very small book.
But here's the well, no. This is actually this is distributing in the Air Force to keep this.
What kind of rabbi are you? What denomination are you?
What denomination? I'm Jewish. You couldn't tell?
No, no. Are you an Orthodox?
Oh yeah. Well, I'm actually what they call
ultra-reform.
I'm a paradox rabbi.
Do you believe in? I just curious. I never figured that. It seemed like you were pretty sort of like a new conservative, but I don't know. I'm asking you. I don't know what you.
No, I believe in what do I believe? I believe in naked women, which I like. I believe in making money.
New wave Orthodox.
There you go.
Yeah, pay us. Most can. Right.
Oh yeah, no, but
so you must be someone.
What's very special is they've taken my back hair and made me a third payas, but you can't see it. It's sort of like a tail. But this is I don't show that on camera for obvious reasons. That's a little too scary, if you know what I'm saying, and I think you do. But we're talking with Ben Katchor, ladies and gentlemen, here in the day. But let me also ask you about the bigger explosion, even Fun Home or Mouse or all of that, but in Japanese anime and stuff that is based on, My Hero Academia and things like that. Do you have any take on that? Do you bother to read it? Does it interest you? What do you think of it? Because it's exploded, obviously.
Yeah, they're good. Yeah. Well, there's the mainstream of that work. There are millions of these magazines coming out every week, and there's great work, there's mediocre, just like any form, It just happens to be. A lot of that was the guy who did, what's his name? That early 50s or late 40s Japan. Just after the war, he started doing animation and manga. He was very influenced by Walt Disney. He wasn't really looking back at the early history of Japanese picture books. And there is a great history of that. So by a lot of this cultural work gets fed back from other dominant cultures in the world, like America after the war. And that sort of triggered a lot of the
well, were you, Ben Katchor, were you very influenced?
Comic and animation business. So, but there's great stuff. There's all kinds of stuff. I look at the good work. I mean, I don't.
No, but let me ask: were you influenced either by Disney or Ub Iwerks or Felix the Cat? I mean, what or Al Cap or what?
I grew up reading. I grew up at my neighborhood newsstand, looking at comic books. So the comics of that time were early Marvel and DC and Charlton, those kind of comics. Just like every kid, I wasn't going to the art museum that often. Well, I lived near the Brooklyn Museum. But the bigger visual influence on me was comics.
And at some point when you went to school, you had a teacher, I guess it was already college, who was one of those teachers that we all wish we had or have had, who was just like the special one, who encouraged you in a certain way and the light bulb went on. Is this true?
Yeah, it was more, I think it was in junior high or high school, I went to take a weekend drawing class at the Brooklyn Museum. And I had a figurative painter named Andy Reese, who introduced me to kind of the history of Western figurative painting and drawing. And he had a background in science fiction and comics, so he understood my interest in comics, but just opened at least my mind up to the larger history, the earlier history. So that was kind of pivotal. But you know, all through college, art classes would not deal with comics. They were saying this doesn't really belong in the art department. They didn't belong anywhere in the academic world at that time. These teachers were people brought up during the height of abstract expressionism. They were all moving back to the figure, but they were not interested in storytelling. They were just interested in formal compositions using the figure. So if you came in with a comic strip, they wouldn't know how to talk about it. They'd say, go talk to your writing teacher. And you know, if you went to your writing teacher in the English department, they'd say, this is comics. I mean, there was this really strong prejudice. They said nothing good can happen in that form. It's bad by, just the form is bad. So this idea of mixing text and image.
I think Kurt Vonnegut may have helped a little bit.
Taboo against that in Western culture. What was that?
I was just going to say, I think in a tiny, tiny way, maybe Kurt Vonnegut helped break that pattern a little by including a couple of drawings in his books. No? Oh, are you not hearing me? Hello? You there?
No, I didn't hear you.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'll say it one last time. It's either Cat's Cradle or Breakfast of Champions, where Kurt Vonnegut included some drawings in his book. And I think maybe that made a difference. A tiny one, like the pebble in the water.
Well, yeah, it's just a very strong prejudice specifically in Western culture about mixing the two. But of course, not in the theater and not in cinema. They're mixed all the time. It was just in this high literature and high art had these strange taboos developed. And those taboos, you know, I would say they were kind of a misunderstanding of this theory that Lessing had, Gotthold Lessing, that text and image work in very different ways. But he never said you shouldn't mix them. He was a playwright, and anyone who puts on a play knows there's a stage picture and then the actors talk and there's text and image happening. So he wasn't against mixing them.
Yeah.
But I think for various reasons at different times in history, this taboo developed.
Now you, Ben Katchor, mixing yourself. You have done some theater. In fact, you were kind of involved in a musical theater piece.
Yeah, I did about 6 of those.
Oh, I didn't realize that many. Oops, sorry. Well, how was that for you as an experience?
You got to get your head out of the Gomorrah. And, you know.
My head's in my tuchus so often, I can't even think about Gomorrah. So what was that experience special for you, and what was the best part of doing theater? Was it just being able to collaborate with other humans instead of being...
Yeah, well, it's very similar to staging a comic strip, except it happens in real time, and you can't expect the reader to go back and figure out what they missed. You know, it has to be fairly comprehensible in the moment. And it's fun to work with people, you know. When you're working alone, all of the critical voices are out of your own head. And when you're working with other people, these critical voices are from your collaborators. And I was really lucky and worked with this composer, Mark Mulcahy, who was, you know, we were very much in sync about how to do this, how to
Well, let
set
me,
this stuff, how this stuff could be set to music. Yeah.
since you did 6 of these, what did you learn and know about the mixing of theater and visual and text and all of that by the 5th and 6th production that you didn't know or wish you had known by the first 2?
Well, the thing about theater is that it doesn't, you can make all kinds of plans. You know, you can do elaborate scripts and drawings of the sets and all kinds of rehearsals. But the thing about theater is it's not happening until it actually unfolds in real time in the theater. In other words, until you start seeing the first few rehearsals, you don't know what you've done. And then it's a complete surprise when you see it happening on the stage. You just could never envision how this music and scenery and text would come together in real time. It's a complete surprise. I think that's why, you know, you get all these very experienced people coming together and collaborating, and they've made great work and they make something terrible. You know, they think it's a bankable group of people, and what they put together is just horrible because it's somewhat out of control. And what you should do if you have enough rehearsal time is fix the things that don't work and you know, build upon the surprises that work. But it's just full of surprises. So,
Well, that's the joke, or not the joke, but that's the truth of Broadway. Everybody thinks, well, how come it came to Broadway terrible? I mean, and they only because of rules and union things. Broadway gets, you know, a couple of weeks of previews.
Well, the other thing, especially on the scale of a Broadway show, there's a lot of money invested in this thing already. And even if it's terrible, no one is ready to pull the plug. They want to at least open it and see what happens. And, you know, the other thing is if it's a bad collaboration, no one is willing to tell the director or the writer how bad it is because they want to keep their job and they want the thing to go on. I mean, it's a job for some people. I think that has a lot to do with it. It's really easy for me to make a comic strip and say, this is not working and throw it in the garbage. But I've been working on a show for a few months and invested a lot of money in it. Yeah, that's just hard to do.
Even when I do a sermon, you know, when I look at the congregant, sometimes I'm doing a good one, but if I'm doing a bad one, they're not going to tell me because they know I'm going to smack them and throw them out the back window. Right. So they just sit there.
There's a lot of that. I think a lot of that goes on in, you know, the more commercially oriented the theater is, I think even in off-Broadway, nobody wants to be the person to say, this is not too good. The first show I did was something called the Carbon Copy Building.
Right.
It was done with a group of composers called Bang on a Can. And people in the cast who had been in lots of theater, lots of musical theater, they were really worried. They said, this doesn't feel like it's working like any show we've ever been in. And they thought this was just going to be a real disastrous thing for them. And, you know, it went on to be fairly successful for an off-Broadway show. Won an Obie Award, and it did as well as an off-Broadway. So even they didn't know. So they, you know, people can be wrong about where something's going, but there is that element of the physicality of the theater. It only happens at that late point. And then you could say, well, it's too late to fix it, maybe. I mean, especially if there's, you know, a union theater involved and people say we can't go back and redesign the whole first act. It's impossible. So, it's a risky business for that reason.
But let me ask you about getting back to your real comfort zone, is right in front of a drawing, literally a drawing board. Are you one of those people, do you have to be inspired, quote unquote, or are you inspired by deadlines, a commission, somebody telling you, we need this by then? Yeah.
I mean, for most of my career, I had deadlines, weekly or monthly, and I was making a living. And I said, if I don't sit down and get a strip done, I would be out of a job. So, it's like a shoemaker. You bring your shoe that needs a new heel. They don't say, I'm not feeling inspired this week. Come back next week and I'll fix your shoe. If you do comics on a regular basis, you have a certain level of a competent strip. May not be one of your best, but it won't be terrible. It'll work. It'll be a story.
Well, speaking of a best, do you have something that you consider your very best work, or a strip, or a panel even, or something that means the most to you?
Well, I think the series in Hand Drawing in America, that was a series about architecture and urban design. I guess those are some of my favorite, but they may not be the best. I'm not a good judge of, I can't see it objectively, so I don't know. I'm not the person to ask what my best work.
What is the most directly autobiographical thing that you ever put into a strip, excuse me. Yeah.
The dairy, the end part of the dairy restaurant is pure autobiography. It's about my experience visiting dairy restaurants in the last years. So that's the most I've never done anything like that autobiographical.
Okay, well, do you think
And it's not a comic strip, it's an highly illustrated book. Some parts of it are designed as comic strips, but mostly it's more like an picture book. There's an image almost on every page, or more than one sometimes.
But by the way, I want to make sure that people can get this. I mean, nobody can get anything now except on the internet.
No, you can get it I think you can get it online pretty easily if you look around. If Amazon is currently out of it, try Barnes and Noble, or try your local. A lot of local booksellers have set something up through Ingram, the distributor, to sell books to support their own stores. So check with your local bookstore and ask if they can deliver a copy. It's possible. It was all printed before the pandemic began, so the books exist.
And we do want to let people know, by the way, that you have a website of your own. It's called Kachor.com, Katchor, which amazingly is just how you spell your name, Katchor.com, to find out about your history. It's a lovely website. It gives a whole history of what you've done and how you do it. And I assume how you can go and buy not just that book, but copies of The Jew of New York and Carbon Copy Building and other, Julius Knippel, of course, real estate photographer. So where did that, because that was the real thing, that first major name in that first strip. Where did the idea come from for that? Did you hear that? That was
for Knippel?
right there. It wasn't from me, I promise. That noise.
And are you farting electronically now?
It's what we do. We're Jews. We're trying to figure out the next step, the next level. We're getting too much air in here. So
Digital fart.
Too much dairy. So my computer may in fact be lactose intolerant. We're figuring that out. The Mac, legendarily lactose intolerant. I can't tell you why. But what the hell? I forgot what my damn question. What was my question?
Oh, where did Knippel come from?
Yeah. Where did that first idea?
Someone named Russ Smith was starting up a new weekly paper, the New York Press, and he wanted to commission original comic strips. And he sort of said, I'd like a strip that takes place in the streets of New York, or a kind of fictional New York, And I took it from there. And I had heard of this profession, a real estate photographer. I mean, it's an actual thing people used to do for a living. I don't know how big it is anymore. No, I think people
No, it's
still
still,
do it.
if you want to sell your house and it's like,
You need a photographer, right?
yeah.
So I thought it was a good excuse to get this main character out in the street. That was really and then it took it from there, you know. And it's not really about him doing that job. It's about what happened in between his jobs, sort of in his off time. But
well, let me ask you.
That's how it happened.
We're talking with Ben Katchor here on the Dave's Gone By Facebookio, Podcastio, Programmio of the stream here with me, Rabbi. So let me ask you a question. Do you mourn, do you miss the heyday, as it were, of the daily newspaper and of the weekly magazine as we lose more and more? Or you're someone, despite your nostalgia penchant and what you draw, you seem to be someone who kind of rolls with the flow and makes use of the better, newer things of technology, and you're happy for them in a way if they make your life easier. So where are you in where we are as a culture, even before, forget Corona?
Yeah, my career began in that old media world of newspapers and magazines. And because that was a kind of a monopoly, a very limited monopoly, to get into a weekly paper, there were 2 or 3 in New York. And if you were in it, it worked really well for you. If you were not in it, you were closed out. And so because it worked for me and I found my readership in that form, I'm whatever career I have is indebted to that form. But so, you know, the idea of seeing things on a screen, you know, they were always printed terribly. The print quality in most of these newspapers was awful. The image was small, very low resolution screen was used. So my strips look much better on a good computer monitor.
Huh.
The whole thing is that the crash of that particular culture, that old media world, I don't think anybody's replaced it with something that can help people make a living. So that's the only problem. I teach, I make some of my living teaching. I don't just depend on comics. At one time, I could just do comics and books. So I think that's the problem. How advertising has become kind of unlinked to content online, because the ads follow you. It doesn't matter what you're looking at. It's hard to sell ads for link to specific kinds of content. So, and also there's a lot of things to see. I mean, there's a lot more competition in that way. If you were in a weekly newspaper in New York, everyone who picked up the newspaper, some large proportion of those, you know, people looked at the comics. That was put in front of their face. On the internet, if you put up a website, it's just one of millions of places to look at. So yeah, the playing field has been evened, but the business of it has been sort of knocked out, except for people who aggregate ads and websites. You know, those people are making a lot of money.
Well, thank God. Thank God you're teaching young people to get jobs that they'll never get.
Yeah, it's a rough time. They have to reinvent the economy somehow. The whole relationship of media to economics has to be rethought.
Well, no, I'm thinking that if Corona kills 30 million people, there'll be just jobs for the people who haven't died. So this is how the Jewish God works. He's like, I'll kill as many as I need to kill, and then everybody will have a job again. And it's going to work out fantastic. Not for the dead people. It's not going to work out.
Do you run your synagogue online?
Oh, I don't care. Anybody?
Are you even affiliated with? You are the Sons of Bitches of Grace. Are you online? Are your
Well,
services
we
online?
do our things online, but I prefer to meet people in person.
I think we
Basically, I
probably,
just open the window, and anybody who's out in the street can hear me very clearly, and that's how I do my sermons now. I just say, "Shalom, all right, let's dive in." Right,
you're a street,
stop
you're
carrying.
a street preacher, in other words.
No, let me ask a
That
couple
was,
more questions.
that's a popular form, street preaching.
Yeah, that's
I don't know Jews doing it, right? But
well.
you
Instead
do
of a
it.
soapbox, I stand on a matzah box. It's good, except I'm heavy.
Right.
The box is light, and I crush through it, and then it makes a mess, and there's crumbs all over the street. It's not good. What? And then, well, yeah. Anyway, here's a question for you. I don't know if you've probably been asked this, but if a Goyish alien came down from Venus, or you should pardon the expression Uranus, how would you, and they asked her, what do you do? What is it about what you draw? How would you explain your world to this thing from another being, from a totally alien, literally, culture? How would you say, this is what a Ben Katchor strip or
I think any advanced civilization would understand text image media. I think they know it, understand it right. I don't think like some high art, purified high literature or painting needs a lot of explanation. I think comics are pretty self-explanatory. You just tell them read it and you'll see what it is.
But your
I don't think
particular Brooklyn,
if they can't read English, of course, this wouldn't mean anything to them. But I think, assuming they could translate the text, I think they would be able to decipher it and say, I see what this means. Whether it culturally connected with them, I don't know. But that's no different than somebody, from another country or another. Either they know something about American urban mythology or they don't. I mean, I don't know. They could learn about it in the book. To some people, maybe it was all made up. I mean, most of my strips are not documentary work, they're fiction. So but I don't think aliens would have trouble with the form.
No, well, people have this assumption that all your work is "quote unquote" New York, when mostly it's in a fictional city.
Yeah, it's not that. Usually not. The Dairy book is really the first book I've done that's really about the real world, not a fictitious version of the world.
Well, I'm so glad you brought that up, because my last question for the marvelous Ben Katchor, brilliant Ben Katchor, is the real world. We're in it. We're talking about coronavirus. You're isolated. I'm isolated. I'm always isolated. I was isolated since I was born. My mommy actually had a separate womb that I was kind of I didn't have to actually be in her body, because that's how isolated. I'm kidding. But
really,
Corona, we're in it. We're living it. Is it going to inform whatever you're working on now? Might it inform what you're writing like 5 years? Like when you lived through 9/11? Did it inform?
I did it.
Then
there's a strip. I have a website of some recent strips called ourmentalage.com. If you look at that, the last one is about the pandemic. So I did at least that strip. I might do some others. I think it'll inform my work. But people who go through wars and epidemics and other terrible things, it can play a big part in their life. Luckily, I haven't gone through a war or until now, through a pandemic. So it wasn't a big part of my.
9/11 would have been. That was a cataclysm.
Yeah, but that was a drop in the bucket.
We didn't know
it was one day.
Well,
I mean, the war that the wars that it started all over the world that are unending. That's not a drop in the bucket. But the actual event, it was somewhat traumatic for New Yorkers, but not a.
But they'll say that artists, like, you can't really make good art in the middle of something like this. It takes time and distance to then create something good about it. That's why I keep bringing up 9/11. You really didn't get a lot of artistic, creative books or plays or anything about that for a long time, and then you start
Well,
you know.
I guess catastrophe is a saleable commodity, you know, the Holocaust industry and all of that. I mean, people apparently like to read about terrible things. But I think, you know, there's some pretty good investigative. I'd rather read good investigative journalism about it to understand what's going on rather than my personal feelings. I mean, if you're not dying from it, if you're just sick and you get better, I don't know. It's
No, but
we'll
you
see.
have I think you have a point there. Like, Anne Frank should have waited 10 years after the war before she put out that book. Because, you know, it's kind of unfinished. You know, there are parts in there that could have been
I don't think she had too much to do with publishing. I think she was dead, right? Was her family or some?
But still. Anyway, on that magnificent note, ladies and gentlemen, so let me ask Ben Katchor, besides promoting your new book, which is The Dairy Restaurant, available wherever we're all getting books right now, or find out more about it at Kachor.com, Katchor, Kachor.com. What are you working on, especially now that you've got all this extra, presumably, time on your hands as well?
Yeah.
Now.
I'm putting together a collection of a series called Hotel and Farm. That was a strip that ran for a few years. One week it was about hotel culture. The next week it was about agriculture. It alternated about these two topics. And there are probably over 100 of them. And I'm writing a new story to tie some of it together. And that's the next book.
Wow. So. No, that sounds fantastic. And then I didn't even mention, I forget which book it was, that Michael Chabon gave you a wonderful a foreword on.
Yeah, that was for, I think, the second book I did. One of the Knipple books, right?
Do
yeah.
I mean, what is the best compliment that you've ever gotten about your work? I mean, you've won awards, obviously, you won a friggin' MacArthur grant, but what's the best thing somebody said about?
I've been very lucky. I've had many amazing writers write about my work, and that's, you know, incredibly fortunate. So all of those kinds of people who could have spent their time doing a lot of other creative work decided to write about my strips. I mean, those are those are kind of meaningful. So yeah, I wouldn't boil it down to one comment. Anytime any reader emails me and says I'm having fun, you know, reading your book, that sort of makes it feel worthwhile. A reader of mine once said he came across a book of mine called The Cardboard Valise. It's like an imaginary travelogue book. And he said he started laughing so hard, he almost died. He almost had a heart attack. I mean, he said he was on the verge of having to call an ambulance to stop him from laughing that hard. So that
was, you take that perhaps as a challenge and say, my next book, I'm going to kill him. That book was really
kill you.
I'm going to have a panel in my next book that is going to put this guy into full cardiac arrest that he won't come out of. You know, it's a challenge sort of thing. Do you see that as a possibility?
It's kind of strange. That was an extreme reaction. I don't know. There was something in the storyline that struck him as so funny, he couldn't stop laughing. So it's kind of amazing to hear that. But that's, you know, that's the upside of the internet age, that you can hear from all these readers and see how it affects them. But that's the main difference from theater and comics. Is at theater you have a live audience, and if they're not laughing at the right point or they're not applauding after each scene, you know you might be in trouble. A comic strip goes out and you never see anybody reading it and responding to it except through emails and things. So yeah, that's another big difference I forgot to mention.
Sure.
Theater, you're getting this constant feedback from the audience, and you have a sense, especially I think experienced actors have a sense of whether the audience is engaged or they've lost the audience. They know, somehow they know.
Yeah.
And sometimes they say if they're not making too much noise, they may be so engrossed that you've completely won them over. I don't know. That's a whole
Tuesday
art form.
Where on a Tuesday night the audience is quiet and a comedy, and they're not laughing so much, and then suddenly they give a standing ovation at the end, and then it's like, wait a minute, we thought you were hating this, and no, they weren't. They were actually loving it. But I will bet that everybody who reads The Dairy Restaurant by Ben Katchor will put the book down at the end and give a standing ovation for the drawing and the text in this book. Not only that, they're going to treat it like the Torah, where they're going to, as soon as they finish it, they're going to start it all over again. Maybe from right to left instead of left to right, because it's a Jewish thing, but they're going to want to read it cover to cover again and again. The Dairy Restaurant by Ben Katchor. It has been, may I call you, by the way, Ben Yomin? Is that your Hebrew name?
Yeah.
Ben Yomin.
Benjamin David Moshe Katch.
Oh!
I have two middle names.
What was it? Moshe what? It was Ben Yomin, Moshe
Benjamin, David, Moshe Katch. I have, somehow they're all dead people I was named after. Three people who didn't make it through the Second World War.
It would be pretty horrible, but can you imagine if all these Jews start dying of coronavirus and they have like 15 middle names that all these people are going to be born after because they've got to name them after all people who died in the same.
Possible.
Well, I just have these delightful comical ideas.
You have more, for a rabbi, you have a more turn of mind.
I do.
Where did you study? May I ask where you studied?
I never studied. There's no point of studying. We're all going to die.
You mean you're a self-taught rabbi?
Well, in a matter of speaking, I mean, I do my own cheder, where I go into a little room with a bunch of mirrors, and I just watch myself and listen to myself talk. So it's kind of like having other students with me, but it's just me, kind of an echo chamber of Judaism. And I think it shows. I mean, I think you can kind of tell where I'm coming from with that.
That's interesting.
Benjamin David Moshe Katchor. It has been just lovely talking to you. I wish you certainly well.
Thank you. Great to be on. I'm a great fan of your show. Great fan of the show, especially the rabbi. Right, you are the rabbi. Don't
start doing the doppelganger thing. Dave and I are close, but we're not that close, if you know what I'm saying. And I think you don't. But ladies and gentlemen, we've been talking with Ben Katchor. Go to Kachor.com, KATCHOR.com to find out all about his history, his work, and of course, get The Dairy Restaurant. And once you've eaten at a dairy restaurant, go get his book about them, because it's going to be really great. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you, Ben. Thank you. And shalom and good health to you. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye. Take care.
We're just going to end.
So we're recording it. Oh, okay.
Yes.
I thought it was going out live. It's not going. Oh, the audio is going.
We're just going to end the
meeting. So we're recording it. Oh, okay.
Yes.
I thought it was going out live. It's not going.
It was going out live. Bye-bye. Shalom. And stop. Oh, did I stop? I don't know. It's converting the meeting. We've got it on recording. So Mazel, Glick. I do apologize to all the people watching, like Arlene and Brittany and Jeffrey and Angie and Ann, and all the folks who tuned in to watch my interview, my talk with the wonderful Ben Katchor. I apologize for the the technical problems, the slowness of the interwebs, but I think it came out overall pretty darn well, really. So thank you, Ben. Thank you so much to Ben Newman, and thank you to Dave's wife, Joyce, who was instrumental in setting up the instruments that helped us play. See, notice don't notice that. Anyway, David is going to come back. He's going to do a little bit more of the show because he's got a poem to say. He's going to talk about Broadway a little bit. So don't go avec. We have more. Dave's gone by with you. Let me just play a little of my outro music, if you will, and I know you will, to take us out of this segment. A little bit of, shall we say, klezmer music, so appropriate for Ben Katchor. Now, you might tune into other podcasts and TV shows and radio shows and get a touch of class, but where else, ladies and gentlemen, can you get a touch of class, if you know what I'm saying? And I think you don't. But anyway, yes, Dave Lefkowitz here. We're back with a little more of Dave's Gone By. I'm sorry if our video is also still a little bit slow on the uptake. I'm watching my video here, and it's because what's really, really cool is I hope you enjoyed listening to Rabbi Sal Solomon's interview with Ben Katchor that we just had on live. We're saying that was recorded, and what you didn't see is that interview was captured via Zoom. So when we put the interview up on davesgoneby.com, and also probably put it up on YouTube and one or two other places like archive.org, you will not just be able to see Rabbi Sal as you were on Facebook, but it is a Zoom meeting. So physically, and that was also one of the reasons it took some time to get started, and we had some technical issues, that we had the Rabbi and Ben Katchor visually, side by side in gallery portrait like they can do on Zoom at the same time, which is a fabulous thing. So if you want to see the interview again, or if you know people would be really interested in it, and they missed it, give it a day or so, and we'll have the interview up there, and you'll actually be able to see both of them. You'll see both Rabbi Sal physically, visually on the screen, along with Ben Katchor on the screen. And that's really, we haven't done, the only way we've been able to do interviews like that over the years is if two people are physically in the same room. And here we are, we've been able to do this Zoom thing. But the only problem with that is right now on this computer, they're saving it's going to be a big file. So it's converting the file into a form that we can upload it, and it's using a ton of this computer's energy. So I'm sorry if that's slowing down or causing lag time in the way I'm talking and the visual of this show. It's technology. You've got to roll with it, and you got to take the good with the bad. I just hope there's enough physical space on this machine that it'll take the whole file. Fingers crossed. But anyway, got a little bit more to do on Dave's Gone By. It's about 12:15 Eastern Time here in the radio podcastio programmio Daverhood with me, Dave Lefkowitz, my darling adorable wife Joyce, my potato. Potato, did you like that interview with Ben Katchor? He should draw more potatoes. I'm sure in some of his books, if he's talking about, well, a dairy restaurant, they can serve, oh God, I know. Can you say pierogi. I'm sorry, but then I shouldn't have brought it up. I apologize. Oh, he's going to be upset for the rest of the show now, I can tell. Anyway, what else? What else do we have to do on the program? Not much. I just have Inside Broadway to do, which is going to be a few minutes, and then our Colorado Limerick of the Damned. Anything I need to inform people of? I'm talking to my wonderful wife Joyce here.
Everything's going well. I took a cute picture of Wolf. Do you want to see it?
Yeah, if we can show everybody.
Everybody. It's adorable. He actually put his head on a little pillow. He's got his diaper, so.
Oh, that's exciting.
Well, it is exciting.
Oh, let me put it here. Our Broadway music. While you're doing that, this is our dog, Oofty Goof. Usually he makes
Just
a cameo.
Be careful, because it's charging. It's on the.
He makes
wait,
you know what? Don't.
I'll show you.
Okay. Our dog usually makes a cameo on the show, but he's sleeping. We're leaving him alone. But Joyce took apparently a really adorable picture of our dog, Oofty, and we're going to share that with you now because we want hits, we want clicks, we want you to stay with us on the program because we're going to see a beautiful, adorable dog, 18 years old, by the way. So in Rabbi Saul's terms, that would be chai. Let's see our dog, Oofty Gooft. This is, if you're using Wi-Fi, it's going to be, No? We'll get it ready and we'll do it maybe after Inside Broadway. Yeah. No, everything is using and drawing energy because, in the United States, we have the slowest internet in the world. I'm not making that up and I'm not just being whatever. If you see it, but Sweden, we just be flying through this and there'd be no problem at all. But in America, they've got companies that slow down the internet unless you pay ridiculous amounts for it. Anyway, here, let's take a look at our dog. Here's
he put his head on the pillow, and then he's got the diaper, but he has his head on the little pillow.
Oh, I'll even bring him closer. Look at him.
His tongue's out because he has no teeth, and he's 18, and the diaper's normal, but look at his head on the pillow.
Oh.
Bubba.
So sweet. That's our dog.
I'm charging my phone.
Oofty. If he wakes up, we'll bring him on camera in a little bit. But for now, let's be creative. I know Broadway is not happening right now. Broadway is quiet. It's dark. It's been dark for a couple of weeks. They're saying they're supposed to reopen in a week and not going to happen, folks. But we'll talk about that in this segment that we call Inside Broadway. Inside Broadway, a look at theater on and off Broadway and beyond. Brought to you by Total Theater and Performing Arts Insider. Curtain going up. This show, by the way, goes on so long that I've completely forgotten that I actually started Inside Broadway about an hour ago and was in the middle of it when the Ben Katchor thing happened.
I don't want 15.
I know. It's about 20 after 12. So we just have Inside Broadway to go and the Colorado Limerick of the Damned. But let's go inside and let's go back inside Broadway. We were talking about Corona, of course. And unfortunately, most of the segment is going to be dealing with that. Oh, look at curtains going up. Here we go. Hey. Maybe can it stay on my head? Let's see. Let's sort of a Punch and Judy show here. No? Oh, thank you, dear. So let's brush the curtains away to talk about what's been going on Broadway. All technically, if you believe the League of American Theaters and Producers, if you believe the American Theater Wing, they are still going on the idea, or they haven't officially made notification of changing the idea that Broadway will come back on April 13th, 2020. So in other words, a week and a half from now, technically, all the Broadway shows and tons of the off-Broadway shows are supposed to reopen. You're making this rock.
Oh, sorry.
You can rock my world later, babe. So it's not going to happen. They know it's not going to happen. I mean, the place where I work, my day job, I just found out that it's not going to be open for another couple of weeks. They're going to change it, but they're afraid what's happening with Broadway theaters is that they don't want to give a date and then postpone that, and then postpone that. They kind of
Can I ask
waiting.
you this? How are
Yeah.
they going to rearrange all the tickets they owe people?
Oh my
So,
God.
like, this would be my thing. Like, let's say I pay $5,000 for a Hamilton,
Yeah.
to be abused by Lin-Manuel Noriega, and I pay $5,000, I lose that seat.
Yeah. Well, that was the thing. That
Are
was
they going to sue? People are going to start suing, right?
Well, what happened was people were a little surprised early on because they thought it was a no big deal thing, and they thought, well, just rearrange my tickets, and this was the one time, or postpone them.
Yeah.
And the league said, or the Telecharge and Ticketmaster or whatever said, nah, refunds only. We're not, because people were going to say, okay, I'll go on May 28th or April 28th,
Yeah.
and Ticketmaster tell you know what, we'll give you your money back. And I believe people are getting their money back. The thing about off-Broadway theaters and off-Broadway theaters that are suffering even, because, Broadway theater, it's commercial producers, the actors are suffering. The playwrights, the designers, the producers, it's a gamble, it's a risk, they're insured.
I think my sister said that we're going to get bailed out as people. We're going to get like $2,000.
Sure.
So are they going to bail out the theaters too?
Well, the thing about the theaters is I wonder if they're not for profit. Yeah, I'll take a little more spritz in the egg cream here. But one thing that small theaters that don't charge a lot for tickets, because they're not Broadway theaters, they're not charging $180 for an orchestra seat, is they're saying, hey, tell you what, please, we've had to cancel. Most of them, they're not rearranging, they're not postponing, they're canceling shows. And the actors, they're begging people to say, hey, look, if you pay for tickets, could you just kind of donate them back? Because if tickets were $20, $25, would you mind?
I would do that. I would do
well,
that.
if you have the money, thank God you're still being paid. You still have a job. It all filters down. If you have someone who's not getting paid right now, $25, $50 for a pair of tickets.
Food. Yeah, that's food money. Mm-hmm.
We're not even feeling the pain of this yet. Except there are people who, of course, are feeling the pain of this, but economically, we're really not feeling it yet. We will, especially as this goes on. So it is very likely that Broadway won't even consider opening until early May. And even then, I go in my head, okay, assuming I don't get sick, God willing, my family doesn't get sick, right? At what point would I feel comfortable again? Walking into a theater with 12 to 13 or 1,400 strangers.
What upsets me is that remember that nice producer lady who talked about the Broadway streaming? Why can't they just stream and then just charge admission so you have the actors there and all the tech people, and they do the show and people stream it.
Well,
why?
They do it once for a certain chunk of money, and then
no, they could do it 8 times a week and charge people.
How many people would? Would you wouldn't pay $180
no, but
to see a show.
They're paying $25, it'll help
it might
cost, right?
It might if everybody gets on board, if the unions get on board, if everybody says, okay, we're going to make just a little dough doing this, and we have a hit show that people want to stream.
They could do it like that orchestra, the Dutch orchestra I sent you, where all the actors could do it from their homes in costume.
And also, you do have the problem of like if they do it 8 times a week, anybody can kind of just record it the first time and throw it up on the way. It comes with problems. It would have to be a pay-per-view one-time thing, because there are theater companies that are doing that.
But how do they prevent plagiarism?
They have to go after with lawyers and say stop and cease and desist. It's a thing. If this goes on and on, theater companies will start doing that. They will start doing virtual shows. There'll be a lot of one-man shows. Essentially,
you're in good shape, honey.
Or 2 people in a room,
You're in good shape.
Yeah, there we go. No, I can do the Miracle of Long John's.
You could do a rabbi too.
Yeah. Well, the rabbi is a musician, but yeah.
Yeah, but you could just have canned music or have the musician on YouTube. On Zoom.
Yeah, and then convince people to pay a certain amount. That is right. They're doing that. Musicians are doing that, or just creating free content because they know people are just depressed and they need something to do and to watch. But the Tony Awards have been officially postponed. They're not saying whether it's going to be late summer or fall. They're not even saying in terms of whether they'll finish, quote unquote, the 2019-2020 season. whether the Tony
Well,
Awards
how
will
can
be
they
for half the
vote?
season.
How can they vote? Because half the things they didn't maybe see or aren't open.
Half the things open.
Yeah, so then
Yeah,
how can
yeah.
you can't just cancel it?
Well, that's a little sad. And we did have a season between May and early March.
Is there enough stuff to vote on?
There would be enough shows to have, maybe not every single category, but certainly all the acting categories. Not much in the way of new music and lyrics for the theater, but plays. And there's enough. It's not a great crop,
Okay.
but they could. You know, as Robert Miagas was telling us a couple of weeks ago, he remembered when he first started at Playbill, and it was the year when there were no musicals except Sunset Boulevard.
Whoa.
So all they did, they basically gift wrapped half the awards and said, Sunset Boulevard wins, Sunset Boulevard, because there's nothing against it.
Wow.
Now, Sunset Boulevard is a good show. You know, it's a very good musical, but
there's usually two to choose from, right? At least one.
at least. But that year, you know, Broadway sometimes cycles. You have sometimes more.
Why can't
choose
they
from,
just
yeah.
do the Tonys and have the people on stage? That's it.
Well, even then, they have to separate all these
No
people.
audience, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, if they did everything digitally and have all the voters vote on the first half of the season, that is something they could do.
Yes.
The problem for them
What?
is that, well, I mean, they've been losing viewership anyway, so why not just do it virtually semi? I don't know. It's a lot of weird questions on that. I think they'd rather wait until Broadway was up and running and not just do it at Morgue Broadway and remind you, hey, we're still here and we should reopen in a couple more weeks. It's a little different. But the Tonys are postponed.
Who's supposed to host?
Oh, they don't even announce that until they'd be announcing that in a couple of
Neil
weeks.
Patrick Harris could draw the crowd.
Who could?
Neil Patrick Harris.
Yeah.
Yeah, he could.
If you were online, he could.
He could draw the crowd.
Or it needs a Rosie or an Oprah.
Yeah. No, Oprah fell. Don't get her.
Oh, what happened to Oprah?
She was talking about balance and she did something. She fell.
No.
Yeah.
Did she hurt anything?
No, I don't know. She fell hard on her knees, so I don't know.
Oh, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
Anyway, and now the Critics Circle Awards are postponed. I'm sure the Drama Desk will be too. It's you know, if it's going to be more than 2 or 3 weeks that Broadway is closed, that's a season ender. Because the season would have ended on April 28th anyway. So all these shows that were going to open in the spring are just not going to happen. But they're not all going to be completely canceled or go away. For example, Lincoln Center Theater, one of the nice things about the institutional theaters is that they have a support system and something in place where it isn't like a producer hiring
it's
a playwright.
Infrastructure.
Here, they're used to having seasons that go on and continue. So Lincoln Center is not canceling the new musical Flying Over Sunset. They're just postponing it until fall when they'll do it.
I'm sure the actors are going, thank you, Jesus. Yeah.
Roundabout also. They're going to do a revival of Caroline or Change, the Tony Kushner, Janine Tesori musical. They're postponing it till the fall. There's a new play called Birthday Candles by Noah Hadel that stars Deborah Messing from Will and Grace. That is postponed
she
until
did a divorce
fall. Oh, she did. That's right. She did that divorced couple show on one of the streaming services too. Anyway, so I wish that were the only bad news about coronavirus. That would be part of Inside Broadway. Yeah. I wish it was just that Broadway season very, very likely. We'll hear this week that the Broadway season is very likely canceled. We know the Tonys are postponed. We know it's all bad. Blah, blah, blah. I wish that were the worst I could tell you. But the worst, of course, happened, and then the day that I even started to panic when my throat was sore was on Tuesday. The word came down that one of the best of the late 20th century playwrights, Terence McNally, died. He was 81 years old, and he died of complications from coronavirus. Right? This is the guy, he won Lifetime Achievement Award, and this is wonderful that he got them just last year.
Wow.
He got Tony and Dramatists Guild Lifetime Achievement Awards.
God, that's big.
Which is huge. And he's won many other awards over the years. But check out the plays of this man. Okay, early on, the comedy It's Only a Play. Oh, please go. The Ritz, a comedy that kind of made his name, that was sort of a hit. And it was set in a gay bathhouse, so that was pretty new and risque for the early 1970s to come along and have a hit like that and reach Broadway. He also did Master Class, maybe one of his most famous works, all about Marie Callas giving her Callas classes. Love, Valor, Compassion, which has some great monologues in it. Corpus Christi, which, remember that one? That was the off-Broadway show that Manhattan Theater Club was doing, that Christians, right-wing Christians, were lined up around, not really around, just like a dozen or so, angry Christians saying, "How dare you gay up the life of Jesus Christ?" Which it was an equivalent life of Jesus Christ to be born where McNally was in Corpus Christi, Texas. And he'd come through that life as a gay man and his followers and the apostles and stuff. It was an interesting play. I don't know if it worked fully, but it wasn't terrible. But the whole thing was you had to run a gauntlet and there were guards and you had to worry about people holding signs while you were going into the theater because, blasphemy, making Jesus gay and gay. The play went on, life went on, McNally went on. And he also wrote a play with one of the funnier first acts I've ever seen called The Lisbon Traviata, as well as maybe now his best known work, Frankie and Johnny and the Clair de Lune, which was just revived last season with Audra McDonald and the Chicago actor I can't think of it, Michael Shannon was in it too. So, and if you want to see the movie, it was a very nice movie with Al Pacino and I've forgotten her name. The Baker Boys, Michelle Pfeiffer. See, it's all in there somewhere. But anyway, that's all McNally. And the cool thing, and what's really interesting about McNally, and why he became so in demand, because if you read the biographies of him, you know that despite having plays on Broadway and having off-Broadway stuff and all these plays done, for a while he was almost penniless. He had like $60 in the bank. And that went from that to years later, him being so popular and so in demand that a message, and a sign made, no more musicals. I just don't have the time. I just can't take any more projects right now. Because he became the go-to guy if you were needing a book writer for the musical. For example, he did the book, and people laud him for this. He wrote the book for Ragtime. He also wrote the book for Kiss of the Spider Woman, Tony-winning musical of the year with Candor and Ebb. He did The Rink, the Liza Minnelli show, and he did the book with our friend David Yazbek of The Full Monty. So he was as much, even probably more in demand later on for his musical work than he was for his plays. He was, by the way, you'll be happy to know this, Joyce,
Yeah.
like you, he is a Columbia University, or was, alum.
Woohoo!
In his early years. Oh, and of course the nice juicy New York story was that he was at a party and he shared a cab coming home, as it were, with Edward Albee, the playwright of Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. And Albee invited him up for a drink. And McNally had no idea, just thought it was, well, what will your wife think? Didn't have his gaydar on at that point. And he and Albee stayed friends for life, but they were a couple for quite a long time. And then he, in more recent years, he had a very happy marriage with Tom Curdahy. Forgive me if I'm mispronouncing that, who is a theatrical producer. So, and what's really, really great is public television just last year, when he was winning that Lifetime Achievement Award from the Tonys, public television did a documentary about Terrence McNally. And if there's a legacy beyond the plays he's written and beyond the musicals, you would probably not know Nathan Lane's name without Terrence McNally, if he had not been in Terrence McNally's plays. Because I remember when nobody knew him yet, really, I went to Manhattan Theater Club and they were doing one-act plays by McNally called Bad Habits. And it was Faith Prince in it, and Nathan Lane was in there. And nobody knew who they were really at that point either. And I never, or maybe almost never laughed so hard in my life at anything than watching Nathan Lane in Bad Habits. Remember when I was almost bowled over, my sides were splitting and I almost lost consciousness watching the South Park movie in the movie theaters? It was like that watching Nathan Lane in Bad Habits.
Did you make a little wee?
I did. I did indeed. Yeah. So farewell to coronavirus. Terrence McNally, who passed away at the age of 81 this past Tuesday. Now, here's the deal, folks. It's a weird time to be promoting this magazine, but I'm going to do it anyway. This is my magazine. It's called Performing Arts Insider, the Bible of Broadway, and has been since 1944. This is where people in the entertainment industry turn to find out all the information about every show on, off, and off Broadway. If you want to support the theater, ladies and gentlemen, while there's no theater, if you want to be hopeful about the theater, because we just put out the April issue. I'm holding the March one. And what can we say? We printed all the listings and we just said, look, nothing's playing right now. But it's okay, because you're going to be planning for the summer. You're going to be planning for the fall. What you're going to see on Broadway, what you might produce if you are running a regional theater or a touring theater or a high school theater. Mm-hmm. What are the shows out there? How do I contact the people involved? It's all there in Performing Arts Insider.
The show must go on. Isn't that the motto of the Broadway?
Well, that was always the motto, really, of producers.
Oh,
actors don't.
I mean,
an actor was sick and broke his toe. An actor really doesn't want to go on.
Actors do it. They perform in all sorts of things.
They do because they're getting paid. It's the producer who says, you know, the show must go. We got to put some more air in that.
No, it's fine. It's just you know.
The show must go on because they're going to lose it.
About.
The producer makes no money if the show doesn't go on. The actors these days get paid. Yeah, give me a little underneath while we talk about this. So, Performing Arts Insider the Bible of Broadway since 1944. I came onto the staff in the early aughts. I think it was 2000 when Richmond Shepard was the editor, and then Richmond passed about 2 years ago. I've taken it over, and it is still the Bible of Broadway. If you want to get a copy, go to the website, performingartsinsider.com, performingartsinsider.com, all the info on how to subscribe month by month to find out. I mean, I'm just going to thumb through the pages very quickly here. Look how much information they have about every single show that, were this a normal March, would be on, off, and off Broadway. Performing Arts Insider. You definitely want to check it out, and you definitely want to subscribe. Mm-hmm. And by the way, if you want to save a little dough, especially in this time where we're not even printing hard copies at the moment, we can email you.
That's better.
A PDF copy. It's a little cheaper, and you save some trees at the same time. And that's why there's a subscriber who wrote to us and said, "Oh my gosh, this PDF thing is great. I kind of wish I had this."
You know why? Because in a PDF on a Mac, you can do the symbol or Control F, you know, whatever you do, and you can search for whatever you need. It's great,
Well, I thought you were going to talk more while I was drinking.
Okay, hold on.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm good.
You know,
okay. Yeah.
Sorry.
But
I'm trying to organize.
You cover my gurgling and my gulping down.
I think I covered your gurgling when we got married.
So now, hey, my Auntie Essie just signed in. Hello, Auntie Essie.
There you go.
And Jeff and Anne Marie and Angie and Jeffrey and Brittany and so many other folks who've been tuning in. We're doing Inside Broadway on Dave's Gone By. I know. There is no Broadway, but that's why we're talking about it, so we can have a little taste of it as we speak. But unfortunately, we just have some more bad Broadway news. In this week where we lost Terrence McNally, we also lost Mark Blum, age 69. He died on Thursday, also of corona-related illness. Mark Blum, I can say that name. You won't know who he is. You probably don't know, unless you're a real theater and on-Broadway person. You probably don't know Mark Blum. Who is that? If I showed you a picture, he's one of those actors. Oh, him.
Appeared in everything.
Oh, him. Known in films because he was he was the other character's husband. He was Rosanna Arquette's husband in Desperately Seeking Susan.
Oh,
the guy she ends up dumping for Aidan Quinn. He may be best known for that early on. He was also in Crocodile Dundee. He plays the boyfriend. He's sort of like the dumped, bland boyfriend in all these things. So he was Linda Kozlowski's boyfriend before she meets Crocodile Dundee. Let's see. And he also did a show in 1987 on TV called Sweet Surrender, opposite Dana Delaney. I don't know if anybody remembers that. I know him because I would see him Always, if you went to the theater year after year from the 1970s on, you saw Mark Blum. In 1977, he made his Broadway debut playing a Venetian in The Merchant, which was Arnold Wesker's adaptation of The Merchant of Venice. It was supposed to star Zero Mostel, but he got sick and the show did not fare very well. He played the father in the original iteration of Lost in Yonkers on Broadway, the Neil Simon play, back in 1991. He was in the play called My Thing of Love, opposite Laurie Metcalf. He was in both productions of Gore Vidal's very good play, The Best Man. He was in the 2001 revival of 1,000 Clowns, opposite Tom Selleck. That was the one that was doing okay, and then 9/11 happened, and it's just sort of tanked. He was in 2004, he played a juror in 12 Angry Men. Now check out the rest of the cast on this. Philip Bosco, Larry Brigman, Boyd Gaines, Robert Prosky, and our friend of the neighborhood, Robert Clohessy, were all fellow jurors in 12 Angry Men alongside Mark Blum. And then his last Broadway show was in 2013, the comedy drama The Assembled Parties by Richard Greenberg. That was the show where Judith Light won her Tony Award. But the Broadway thing doesn't even tell the whole story of Mark Blum. He did 26 plus off Broadway shows at all the usual places: Playwrights Horizons, 59 E59 theaters, Roundabout Theater, Vineyard Theater, Manhattan Theater Club, and this is kind of sad for all of us. His last off Broadway show was a comedy called Fern Hill, written by our friend of the neighborhood, Michael Tucker, and featuring Jill Eikenberry, his wife. They're called the Tuckerberry, and we had the Tuckerberry on the show talking about that show, which featured Mark Blum in his last off-Broadway gig. So farewell to another person in the neighborhood. I hope it doesn't become a litany of corona victims when we do Inside Broadway here on Dave's Gone By. But let's get to the funny. Let's get to the humor. Let's get to a bit more to the happy here on the program to end our Inside Broadway segment, because God bless the interwebs, God bless Facebook, God bless people who are being creative and thinking, hey, if we were to revive famous plays and musicals right now in the world that we live in, okay, would we have different titles for them? Would we rename them to be more appropriate for the corona pandemic that we're all dealing with and living in? And so the titles that have been going, quote, viral, and by the way, this is courtesy of the All That Chat site on Broadway Stars. Don't Kiss Me, Kate. Get it? Little Shop of Hoarders. My favorite. The Sound of Mucus, although I've been making that joke for many, many years. Don't Come From Away. Brigadoon. You're not laughing at any of these, dear. This one is obviously a Trump thing. The Lion King. Ha ha ha. Dear Evan Hand Sanitizer. Come on, that's cute. Dear Evan Hand. Whatever. Damn Hankies. Get it? No Company. Two Gentlemen with Corona. That's a good one. I Love You. You're Perfect. Now Get 6 Feet Away. An American Quarantined in Paris. 110 in the ER. They're Plaguing Our Song. And finally, and perhaps most appropriate, especially earlier in the week, Everyone on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown.
Amen.
So well done to all the folks who are coming up with those special titles. And since we're swollen with pride here on Dave's Gone By, as we come out of Inside Broadway, instead of Ain't Broadway Grand, maybe Ain't Broadway Gland? Now, I don't know if you get swollen glands from this thing. Yeah. But, I don't know. We'll play this song anyway. And let's just hope for better times and the return of the theater when it's properly time.
It's the famous gay white way where the night is bright as day. Ain't Broadway grand?
It's not just a thoroughfare, it's a tingle in the air. Ain't Broadway grand?
It's excitement, it's romance.
It's excitement, it's romance, it's the Dave's Gone By. Facebookio, podcastio, programmio of the stream with me, Dave Lefkowitz. We're almost ready to let you go and finish the show, but I do want to do one more item as promised. You know, every week, even though I'm no longer living in Colorado, I've been writing these poems about all these different towns and places and municipalities in Colorado. We've been calling them Colorado Limericks of the Damned because, you know, they're limericks. They're supposed to be rude. They're supposed to be off color and not so nice, except amusing in a sick sort of a way. Joyce is giving me weird looks about that, but it's true. They're, you know, they're limericks. They're not, there's no point to them
There were
unless,
some that I think the actions were physically impossible to do.
oh, there would be. Yeah, and I've tried.
And unethical, immoral, and probably
Yeah.
you need a Martian.
Illegal, immoral, and fattening, ladies and gentlemen. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, we're going to be going to I keep forgetting, Lincoln, because I get confused because it's a limerick. Lincoln.
Like Lincoln, Nebraska?
Yeah, but not Lincoln, Nebraska. Lincoln, Colorado for our limerick of the damned.
A limerick is a comic verse of 5 lines, in which lines 1, 2, and 5 will end with words that rhyme. And likewise, verses 3 and 4 also end with words that rhyme. So this is a limerick. Rocky Mountain,
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, our Colorado limerick where we go to Lincoln, Colorado. Yes, such a place exists. And let me tell you a little bit about it. It's in east central Colorado. It is, in fact, named after you-know-who. George Lincoln Rockwell, the Nazi Ku Klux Klan. No, just kidding. It's President Lincoln. The county seat, just so you know, the county seat is Hugo, because there's no one else to go. You know, and as with so much of America, it had been populated by tons of Indian tribes until they were defeated or forcibly removed by American colonists.
They got Meeker back.
Yeah. Still, it's an agricultural community. And what's interesting is it has a cost of living 16% lower than really the whole rest of the United States. So not a bad looking place. It's Lincoln County, Colorado. We're just calling it Lincoln for the purposes of this limerick. Our Colorado limerick of the damned. And quite honestly, if you do have young children around or impressionable people around, this is definitely one of those where you want to hold their ears, or this might be the time to go find that Bob Dylan song and listen to, or at least listen to the first minute of it, because we'll be back. It's a limerick. It's 5 lines long. Ladies and gentlemen, our wonderful, horrible, disgusting Colorado limerick of the damned for Lincoln, Colorado. Oh, pity that hooker in Lincoln, whose business is rapidly shrinking. Her face is still her face is still fair, and she has a nice pair, but her pussy is dried up and stinkin'. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that is our Colorado limerick of the damned. Send your complaint letters to me at davesgoneby@aol.com. That's davesgoneby@aol.com. Remember that you can also message me right here on while the show is going on live, plus all week long, right here on our Facebook page, Dave's Gone By. People only tend to write me messages really early in the show or during, if they're trying to play the quiz, or yesterday quiz, but really, anytime, message me here or email me, davesgoneby@aol.com. Follow me at RadioDave2, if you have Twitter. RadioDave2 is our Twitter handle. Rabbi Saul Solomon, by the way, has a Twitter handle too. It's at Rabbi Saul Solomon, SOLSOLOMON, Rabbi Saul Solomon. The main thing is I want to send you to his website, shalomdammit.com. That's shalom, DAMMIT, shalomdammit.com. The reason to go there is it's links to so much of what he's done. It hasn't been updated in a little while. We got to get on that, but it still has bunches of the interviews that he's done for this program. It also has his rabbinical reflections, both audio and the written ones that his little sermons that he gives, those are there. Plus his 10 episodes of the show that he did on for Long Island cable television, and his one-man show, Shalom Damek, An Evening with Rabbi Saul Solomon, was taped at the Richmond Shepherd Theater back in 2011. That is on there, and oh my God, I can't believe that's almost a decade old. Wow. But it's there. You can watch a long version of it. It's quite wonderful. And it's all at shalomdammit.com. Well, I think, and don't forget to go to davesgoneby.com, because that is where all our archives are. As I said, we've been going through them the last couple of weeks. It's been a blessing that my day job has been dormant, because I've been able to hold on, just give me a second.
What's wrong?
I want to save this recording here. I'm hoping that it will.
It saves it automatically.
Well, no, it's asking me where I want to save it, so I'm going to save it to the... Okay. Oh, well, maybe not. It's okay, there we go. Sorry.
Usually you can search Zoom, you'll find it in a folder that has the word Zoom in it.
Oh, great. Cool. davesgoneby.com.
No, you were saying that you're
yeah, the website. This is where all the archives reside. We've been fixing them up. The first 4 or 5 years of Dave's Gone By episodes are now, they're pristine. They've been fixed. They work. Some of the interviews still no longer do that. Those have to be cleared up over the next couple of weeks. And we're doing some of the episodes, coming up after 2007. The last 2 or 3 years of the show, they're also fine. So you can go searching. You can find a whole bunch of stuff to listen to.
You have a lot of Broadway people on there if you're interested in Broadway.
If you are isolated, if you want to listen to something, you don't know what to do with yourself, because this is not going to be over next week, right? If you can't go anywhere, you got hours of time. And a lot of our shows are audio only. You can do a bunch of things while listening still to Dave's Gone By in your home. Maybe this is a great time to do spring cleaning, right? Or do exercising. Here, look at this. You can say, oh, oh, that Dave's Gone By. He's hysterical. He's great. Well, I hope you find that. And I hope you find all these archives at davesgoneby.com. I also want to remind you and thank so much my friend and acquaintance, Ben Katchor. Remember that his stuff, oh yeah. Thank him, first of all, for being our guinea pig in doing a Zoom-type interview. Never done that before. And it was hinky, but we got it done, and it turned out to work out pretty well.
I think he will be a new congregant for the rabbi. He really seemed to like him.
Yeah, and I might be able to convert him to my Paradox, or Rabbi Saul's Paradox Judaism. Yeah. Orthodox, not so much, but Paradox, yes.
He really seemed to like the rabbi in an odd way. I'm concerned, yeah.
Well, the rabbi is a Jew of New York.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe he's going to make a book about the rabbi.
Immortalized. Well, think about it. It took David Bowie to immortalize Uncle Floyd in a song. Yeah. Maybe it's going to take...
called I'm in the front pew of the synagogue from the bima of Sons of Bitches and Great Neck.
Well, if you ever smelled the rabbi, you know he's always in his own pew.
I can't talk.
That's a little... Oh,
Paul.
Oh, Paul. Anyway, it is almost 1 o'clock in the afternoon here in the neighborhood. I'm done. I'm spent. I don't know who's going to be on, if we have a guest next week, but if I'm not dead, we'll be here with the 740th episode of Dave's Gone By. Next time, that's what I was doing. I didn't thank Ben Katchor. Thank you to Ben Katchor. Go to Kachor.com, Katchor, to find out all about him and get his new book, The Dairy Restaurant, from Amazon, from
everywhere. If you go to the publisher's website, they link a billion stores that you can buy it from. And that's what
I don't know what the publisher is off the top, but you can Google it.
You just Google the and you'll find it. Ben Katchor with an OR.
Yeah. And by the way, you can still get his older books. You can get The Jew of New York and the Carbon Copy Restaurant and the Carbon Copy Building, and all the other stuff that he's done. Ben Katchor, thank you so much for being with us in the neighborhood. Thank all of you who've been tuning in. Remember, if you missed all or part of the show, you can watch it. We're going to post it in a day or two. And in fact, it should be resident on Facebook
and
anyway.
And we'll post an interview with Benny.
And we will post, that's the cool thing.
Ooh.
Since we did a Zoom interview with Ben Katchor, when we post that interview separately, it will be a video. And you will see not just Rabbi Sal Solomon, but him too, side by side on screen. Fingers crossed.
I only wish Dave could join in.
Yeah, no, I don't know why, but Rabbi Sal keeps me off camera. He lets me watch from far away.
Nobody else can do that. That's a miracle.
Well, the miracle is we made it through another episode of Dave's Gone By. I wish you health. I wish you a very good, a week of happy isolation. Just go listen to the Bob Dylan song over and over. It's 17 minutes long, so you listen to it 4 times. That's an hour.
And then put on Stardust or whatever.
Yeah. And then start watching old Dave's Gone By episodes.
Yeah, Potato's going to demonstrate.
Last moment for a potato. Here we go. Oh, he's isolating.
Yes.
That's right, but his mouth is uncovered.
Oops,
it's the one thing you're supposed to cover, potato.
Oops, hold on a second.
They need help. We all need help, ladies and gentlemen. Let's make it through one more week, folks. And happy springtime, by the way. And gone by.